My husband can't swim, but he joined the dragon boat race on Dragon Boat Festival just to impress his mistress. In my previous life, I said to him, "You don't know how to swim." As a result, he beat me into a vegetative state, and his mistress pulled the plug on my life support. When I opened my eyes again, I had traveled back to the day he went dragon boat racing. I told my husband, "Honey, we have to go to the dragon boat race. It would be so embarrassing if we didn't." Because my husband would drown on the day of the dragon boat race. Gene man, where the hell have you been? Did you hide my dragon boat racing clothes again? I walked over sheepishly with the clothes in hand, head lowered, that suffocating feeling from my past life washing over me. "Honey, the seam split earlier, so I stitched it up for you." My husband stared at me in disbelief. "So you're actually letting me join the dragon boat race? In my past life?" I'd merely remarked, "But you can't swim," never expecting those words would provoke Han Chang and make him feel utterly humiliated. He swept me up sideways and hurled me down the stairs, shattering my spine. Then came endless kicks and punches, until I became a vegetable, completely powerless to fight back. Remembering it all, my palms grew clammy with cold sweat and my whole body began to tremble. Suppressing the turmoil inside, I turned to my husband and said, "Of course we should join the dragon boat race. Only influential people get to board those boats. This could really help our company's growth." My husband grabbed my hair and snarled, "You'd better mean that." He tore out a clump of hair, scalp still attached, sending a searing pain through me like thousands of ants gnawing at my skin. "It's fine. Losing some hair is a far cry from being beaten to death. As long as I'm alive, I'll get revenge for myself and my daughter." When my husband saw me carrying a case of Red Bull, he immediately tried to snatch it. I instinctively pulled it away and said, "Honey, you shouldn't drink Red Bull. It's not good for your heart condition." My husband slapped me across the face, causing me to stumble and shatter a vase. My hand landed on a shard of porcelain, slicing it open. Blood immediately started pouring out. My husband grabbed 2 cans of Red Bull and chugged them down one after the other. He then glared at me and snarled, "I drank it, so what? Curse me all you want. Go ahead and report me. It's not like you haven't called the police before." I'm overjoyed deep down. Red Bull can speed up my husband's death. Yes, Han Chang has been abusive multiple times. Reporting him to the police is useless. He has connections who can cover up everything. I bought that Red Bull on purpose. I wanted you to drink it so you'd die faster. Han Chang drowned during the dragon boat race that very day, but wasn't pronounced dead until 10 days later at the hospital. After I became vegetative, the mistress pulled the plug on me, inherited my husband's entire fortune, and climbed her way onto the rich women rankings. This time, I'll make sure my husband dies on the spot so I can haul him straight to the crematorium. That homewrecker won't get a single cent. I lowered my head, covering my stinging cheek, then slapped myself again. A faint smile touched my lips as I whispered, "I'm sorry, darling." I spoke out of turn. My husband reached out toward me, and I instinctively turned my face away, terrified he might grab me by the neck. To my surprise, he only meant to wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. Then he picked up his dragon boat racing outfit and left. Waiting for him at the door was his mistress, Lu Yi, with her 5-year-old son. She said smugly, "Sister Man, do you want to watch the dragon boat race too? Everyone's bringing their children." "Oh, I forgot. You're still recovering from your miscarriage." Lu Yi deliberately emphasized the word child to humiliate me. My fists clenched involuntarily, rage surging inside me as I wished nothing more than to end those 2 despicable people. Just last month, Lu Yi spread rumors that I was carrying a child with Down syndrome, photoshopped my picture with a stranger's arm around me, and Han Chang beat me, at 8 months pregnant. I desperately tried to explain, desperately covered my belly, desperately tried to escape, but in the end, Han Chang beat me unconscious. When I reached the hospital, they delivered a stillborn baby girl. My heart was being torn apart, and I couldn't accept the reality, which triggered a more severe bout of depression. But my unborn daughter was my saving grace. She was the one who gave me hope to live, yet I failed to protect her. A year ago, I was diagnosed with depression and was about to jump from the 30th floor. Just then, the doctor sent a text message saying I was pregnant. She pulled me back from the brink of death and gave me a renewed hope for life. I threw myself into treatment, channeling all my energy into learning about parenting and preparing baby food. I never imagined that a single rumor from Lu Yi and a fake photo would lead to my own daughter being beaten to death by her biological father. The doctors said my child protected me once again, otherwise my spine would have been broken. But I'd rather have suffered that injury than lose her. Since then, my life has been plunged back into darkness. During my postpartum confinement, before I could even seek revenge, I was beaten into a vegetative state once again. From then on, Han Chang began subjecting me to domestic violence, accusing me of cheating on him. Because you can never wake someone who's pretending to be asleep, swallowing my resentment. I knew it wasn't the time to confront them. I simply said, well, enjoy yourselves then. This would likely be their final gathering. I wiped my tears and went back inside. Liuya drove off with a smug look on her face. In this lifetime, I'll make sure they both learn. You don't mess with the wife who's been through thick and thin with you. I went into my husband's study to look for the most important thing, the formula. In her previous life, Liuya obtained her husband's skincare formula, started live streaming sales online, and even made it onto the rich list. I found the safe and entered my birthday, but the password was incorrect. My heart sank. This safe's password used to be my birthday. I carefully tried my husband's birthday, but it was wrong too. This safe will lock permanently after 3 incorrect password attempts. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I entered Liuya's birthday. The safe beeped and actually opened. A sharp pang shot through my chest. My whole body went cold, and my grip on the mouse tightened. So he had planned all along to leave the family fortune to Liuya. Don't ask how I know Liuya's birthday. Every year when it comes around, my husband takes her on a 2-week vacation and buys her anything she wants. As for me, forget birthday presents. Just being allowed to live in peace feels like the greatest blessing I could ever receive. If murder weren't illegal, and if divorce didn't mean splitting our assets, he would have killed me long ago. I won't let them get away with it this time around. Inside the safe was a USB drive, several written pledges from my husband admitting to past affairs and domestic violence, and a massive 2-way accidental insurance policy with a coverage amount of 50 million. So that's what Han Chang was up to. He said he was getting me health insurance. But the document he had me sign was actually an accidental death policy. I clenched my fists, seething with rage. So Han Chang was plotting to have me die in an accident to claim this 50 million. But since Han Chang will die today, the insurance payout will be mine in this lifetime. This is a mutual life insurance policy, meaning if either spouse dies accidentally, the surviving party receives compensation. Han Chang purchased a dual-direction accidental insurance policy to conceal his scheme of murdering his wife for insurance fraud. The policy's effective date happens to be today as well. I carefully stored the insurance policy away and tossed the written pledge straight into the trash. What's the point of a pledge? Cheating and domestic violence are the same. There's no such thing as just once. I don't want any written guarantees this time. All I want is the inheritance, and those 2 dead. After forcing myself to calm down, I copied the data, removed the bank card passwords, and made some alterations to the formula. Didn't Liuya always want this USB drive? I'll give her exactly what she wants, with a twist. I had just finished organizing the documents when I realized it was about time, so I quickly hailed a cab and headed to the Dragon Boat racing site. At the thought of this, a smile crept across my lips, tugging at the fresh sting on my flushed cheek. I grabbed an ice cube from the freezer, pressed it to my face, and made my way to the riverbank. I arrived at the river and found a secluded spot. My husband was at the very stern of the dragon boat. Before boarding the dragon boat, Han Chang made sure to hold an umbrella for Liuya, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. Yay, just wait and watch me shine. I won't let you or xiao you down. Han Chang then patted the illegitimate child's head. Little did he know this was their final farewell. Han Chang would soon drown after falling into the water. The thought of that scumbag dying soon made me struggle to hold back a laugh. I discreetly pinched the bruised arm where Han Chang had struck me earlier. The sharp pain sent a shiver through me, which was the only thing that kept me from laughing out loud. Suppressing my inner excitement, I checked my phone. Just 10 seconds until 12:00. I began the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. My husband fell overboard, desperately screaming for help and flailing his arms, but his cries were drowned out by the loud clanging of gongs and drums. The teammates ahead didn't even notice he had fallen into the water. Liuya was busy chatting with her best friend and completely failed to notice that Han Chang had already fallen into the water. The onlookers burst into laughter, finding Han Chang's plunge into the water utterly hilarious. He looked just like a drowned pig. I had to look away before I gave myself away. Han Chang flailed wildly in the water, his face a mask of shock and terror. I just pulled my hat brim lower and allowed myself a faint smile. He tried to call for help from those around him, but the dragon boat spectators thought Han Chang was just putting on a show. No one could believe that someone who couldn't swim would actually join a dragon boat race. Death itself isn't frightening. What's truly devastating is dying before a crowd that finds entertainment in your suffering. The helplessness is unbearable. Savor this sensation of teetering on the brink of death. Any one of the bystanders could have saved him with a simple helping hand, yet no one believed that a non-swimmer would ever participate in a dragon boat race. It's a shame Han Chang had such bad luck. No one was there to pull him back from the brink when he was dying. Half an hour later, Han Chang's body began to surface, and the people around hurriedly pulled him out of the water. I pinched my bruised skin hard to squeeze out a few tears, then ran over and threw my arms around my husband, sobbing loudly instead of calling for someone to perform CPR. 2. Even if someone had tried to resuscitate him, it would have been too late, but this time, he didn't die from drowning. It was a heart attack. Serves him right. With a heart condition, he chugged 2 cans of Red Bull, went for intense exercise, and then fell into the water. It's a miracle he didn't die. Lu Yi rushed over, shoved me aside, her face pale with panic. Her hands trembled so much she could barely hold her phone as she sobbed. Chang, wake up. Is there a doctor? Somebody save my husband. Watching Lu Yi cry her eyes out, I felt a surge of satisfaction. Finally, I'd torn apart that wretched couple. Lu Yi's tears weren't for love. They were for fear of losing Han Chang, her meal ticket. Lu Yi pointed at my face and threatened, if anything happens to Han Chang, you'll pay for it. When the ambulance arrived, Lu Yi wanted to get in too, but the nurse said only one family member could accompany the patient. Lu Yi quickly explained to the nurse, I'm his wife, and we have a son together. I should go. As Lu Yi tried to pull me out, the USB drive fell to the ground. My inner voice was screaming, pick it up, quick. Isn't this exactly what you've been wanting all along? Lu Yi's eyes lit up, and she immediately snatched the USB drive, stuffing it into her pocket. She deliberately wiped her tears and said, you take care of Han Chang first, I'll bring Xiaoyu over later. Lu Yi then muttered under her breath, with the formula in hand, the company will be all mine. Lu Yi had always wanted to get her hands on the formula, hoping it would secure her permanent position. Han Chang promised to hand over the formula to Lu Yi once their son turned 18. Little did she know, Han Chang was about to die. The roads were extremely congested due to the heavy Dragon Boat Festival crowds. Han Chang suddenly gripped my hand tightly, as if he had something important to convey. I leaned close to his ear and heard 4 words, Willow Leaf Inheritance. Those words instantly stirred up my emotions, which I could no longer suppress, even on his deathbed. He still wanted to leave his inheritance to that mistress and their illegitimate child. In that case, I'll just send you to meet your maker a little early. I leaned in close to Han Chang's ear with a smirk and whispered, don't worry, the inheritance is all mine. The accidental death insurance payout is mine too. That woman and her son won't get a single cent. You didn't know, did you? I bought that Red Bull for you on purpose. I wanted to watch you die. Hearing this, Han Chang's hands clenched into white-knuckled fists, his eyes wide with rage, looking as if he wanted to tear me apart limb from limb. Then I poured fuel on the fire. Besides, you're on death's doorstep. What could you possibly do to me? Han Chang's face twisted into a grimace. The monitors began blaring alarms. His blood pressure skyrocketed, until finally the heart rate monitor flatlined. The accompanying doctor said during the journey, the patient has no heartbeat and shows no vital signs. Would the family prefer we take him to the hospital for a death certificate or proceed directly to cremation? This windfall is mine for the taking. How could we possibly cremate him right away? I need to call the insurance company, get an autopsy done, and wait for the payout before cremating him. I tried to hide my inner delight, forcing a choked sob as I said, let's take him to the hospital first to get the death certificate. I then called the insurance company. The autopsy will take about 7 business days. During these 7 business days, I have to keep Lu Yi occupied, can't let her find an opening to get a paternity test, and she mustn't find out Han Chang is already dead. The very next day, Lu Yi tracked me down, pounding furiously on my door. Chin man, where have you hidden Han Chang? I went to the hospital and couldn't find him anywhere. And why did you freeze my card? I couldn't even pay for Xiaoyu's tuition this morning. I nearly laughed myself silly. All that frantic door pounding was just about the money. And here I thought she actually cared about Han Chang. Han Chang, do you see this? The person you've been protecting with your life didn't even bat an eye when you were hospitalized. All she cares about is your money. Isn't that just pathetic? I chuckled and said, Han Chang is recuperating at a private hospital and needs money. What? Are you thinking of going to wait on him? We just happen to be short of a nurse to handle all the dirty work. At the mention of nursing a patient, Liu Ye took a few steps back. Isn't taking care of a husband the wife's job? So she does know I'm his wife. Liu Ye pointed at the bruise on my arm and said threateningly, if you don't restore my card access, I'll go straight to Han Chang. You'll regret it when I do. Do you even know your place? How dare you freeze my card? Do you have a death wish? At that, I couldn't help but laugh. She meant that once Han Chang returned, I'd be beaten black and blue again. Lu Yi had no idea that Han Chang was now a lifeless corpse, lying on the table being carved open like a piece of meat. I reined in my excitement and said, "Forget about the card." A flicker of suspicion crossed Lu Yi's eyes. "Is Han Chang dead? Is that why you're being so reckless?" A chill ran down my spine. Could Lu Yi be a reincarnated soul as well? How did she know Han Chang was dead? I wiped my tears and randomly called Han Chang. His assistant answered. And when the video focused on Han Chang's face, I deliberately said, "Han Chang, do you see? This is the person you love, cursing you to die. You're not even dead yet, and you're already after your inheritance." Lu Yi looked flustered and quickly said, "Han Chang, are you feeling better? That's not what I meant. Rest well, and our son and I will come pick you up later." Seeing the belief in Lu Yi's expression, the weight finally lifted from my heart. This video was pre-recorded. And the audio is synthesized as well, but it can only buy us a few days. Once Lu Yi goes to the office, she'll likely find out soon enough. A few days is all we need. Lu Yi left after being turned away at the door. When the autopsy results came in, the police found some suspicious details and called Lu Yi and me in for questioning. The moment Lu Yi saw me, she charged at me with claws out, snarling, "Chin man, you vicious woman. You lied to me on purpose. You never told me Han Chang was already dead." "Officer, it's her. She murdered her husband deliberately to claim the insurance money." I didn't say a word, just stood there calmly. The officer began the interrogation. "Chin man, were you aware of the substantial insurance payout from your husband's policy?" I calmly replied, "I didn't know at first. I discovered it later while cleaning the house." The officer pressed further. "Then how did your signature end up on the documents if you were unaware?" I took a deep breath. "I have depression and often take sedatives. My husband told me it was health insurance he bought for me, but he didn't show me the details before I signed." The officer continued, "Chin man, why were you pacing under the tree on the day of the incident? You kept checking the time." I retorted, "Officer, is there a problem with watching my husband in the dragon boat race?" Family members were allowed by the river, but there was no space, so I had to stand under the tree. I never saw him on the boat and thought he'd missed the event. I had no idea he'd fallen in. The officer pressed further. "Your husband couldn't swim. Why didn't you stop him? We found energy drink in the deceased's stomach, and the autopsy shows he had a myocardial infarction." I calmly continued my explanation. "Just because cigarette packs carry health warnings, does that mean my husband would quit smoking? He's a grown man who must take responsibility for his own choices. Besides, I wasn't the one who invited him to dragon boat racing. Why don't you ask Lu Yi about it? She's the one who called him to join." Unhurriedly, I handed my phone to the questioning officers. Both policemen suddenly turned pale, struggling to believe that a prominent entrepreneur would resort to domestic violence against his wife. The video clearly showed the incident where he assaulted me that day, all because I tried to stop him from drinking Red Bull. After reviewing the surveillance footage and roadside information, the autopsy and interviews are complete, and the death has been ruled accidental. Lu Yi came out and grabbed me, stopping me from proceeding with the cremation because she wanted to see Han Chang one last time for a paternity test. She brought a whole group of relatives with her, and in the crowd, I even spotted my aunt. "I don't agree. That's my son's father. I demand a paternity test." My sister-in-law also firmly refused the cremation. "You bitch, you're the one who killed my brother and had him cut open. If you don't let me see my brother one last time today, don't even think about cremating him." The sight of my sister-in-law ignited a raging fury inside me, and now she dares to stand in my way. Han Chang's domestic violence towards me was undoubtedly fueled by my sister-in-law's manipulation. Han Qingqing was always whispering to Han Chang, "What right does a childless woman have to speak up in this house? Brother, you need to put her in her place, or she'll walk all over you. You're the head of this household. A man who isn't tough can't hold his ground." My sister-in-law always stirs up trouble between us every time she visits. She's trapped in an abusive marriage herself, yet she's determined to drag me down with her. In my past life, my aunt Han Qingqing took the initiative to tell the doctor to stop treatment and, together with Lu Yi, seized all my assets. Thinking of this, I clenched my fists, walked up to my aunt, and slapped her across the face. "What right do you have to stand in the way? The deceased should be respected. Your own brother has passed, and you won't even let him rest in peace. You're inhuman." "What? Are you also eyeing your brother's inheritance?" My sister-in-law didn't dare speak, just stood there covering her reddened cheek. Lu Yi immediately lunged at me to strike, but was shoved away by the bodyguard. Han Chang is now in my hands, a mere corpse, How could she possibly stop me? Lu Yi is only after Han Chang's inheritance. Don't even think about it. The inheritance and compensation will be mine for life. I smiled and showed her a video. Oh dear, your son seems to be playing in the water. If you don't get there soon and he falls in, don't say I didn't warn you. Lu Yi was furious and tried to reach out to hit me, but the bodyguard stopped her. How dare you threaten me with my son? You'll pay for this. The group of relatives she brought to cause trouble were swiftly and efficiently taken down one by the bodyguards I had hired. I said to Lu Yi smugly, you decide for yourself. What's more important, your son or Han Chang? Without a moment's hesitation, Lu Yi turned around and threw back a threat, Qin man. Just you wait, this isn't over between us. I chuckled to myself, thinking, so she does have a weak spot after all. She stripped away my vulnerabilities and left me armored with thorns. In this lifetime, I'll personally strip away her defenses too. After obtaining the necessary documents, I had Han Chang cremated on site. With Han Chang having no living parents, his entire estate became mine upon his death. I had just brought Han Chang's ashes home when someone called asking if I needed a burial plot. I replied coldly, no, thank you. Memories flooded back of how Han Chang used to beat me in our past life. How he'd even kicked me so hard that he killed the child I was carrying. Rage surged through my heart. I flushed his ashes straight down the toilet. I hit the flush and sent them right into the sewers. What a rush of satisfaction. Scum like him doesn't deserve a grave. Feeding him to fish would be too good. He belongs in the sunless sewers. Wriggling with the maggots, I went home. Changed into proper attire, and headed to the company. As I entered the office, I saw Lu Yi sitting in the CEO's office, looking utterly arrogant. When Lu Yi noticed me, a flicker of surprise crossed her eyes. She asked coldly, Qin man, how dare you show your face here? This company was left to me by Han Chang. What are you doing here? I felt the blood rush to my head, had enough of sneaking around. So now you're just brazenly snatching things in broad daylight. Think you can just squat here and take everything? I slammed a document onto the table, glaring at Lu Yi. Are you a shareholder or some key technical personnel? You're just a secretary at Han Chang. I can fire you whenever I want. Now that I'm the majority shareholder, what I say goes, Lu Yi said dismissively. Who do you think you are? Qin man, let me tell you, my family's people are all over this company. In key positions. You really think you can act so high and mighty? I took a deep breath, pulled out the chair and calmly sat down. Lu Yi, have you been a mistress for so long that you've forgotten who signs your paychecks? Oh, and by the way, I've fired all your relatives. Lu Yi slammed the table in fury, then pulled out the USB drive and waved it in front of my face. Qin man, how dare you make decisions without consulting me first? Fine, don't come crying to me later. Without this formula, let's see how you explain yourself to the shareholders. If you agree to give me half of the inheritance, then I'll hand over the formula to you. Without its core formula, the company is just an empty shell. Willow's smug expression shows she actually believes the formula is on this USB drive. Little does she know I copied the original formula long ago. I deleted some ingredient ratios, leaving behind an incomplete formula. I pretended to be desperate about the formula. Did you steal my formula, Willow? Give it back now or I'll sue you. Lu Yi declared with unshakable determination. Han Chang left this to me. Why on earth should I hand it over to you? Even without the company, as long as I have the formula, I can still build something great. See, that's the smug look of someone petty getting their way. She figured with the formula in hand, plus the money and property Han Chang had given her over the years, she could strike out on her own. But I won't let her have her way. Since that's the case, I'll just have to give her another gift. I slammed the lawyer's letter right into Lu Yi's face. Here are all the transfers and spending records Han Chang gave you over the years. I've printed every single one. And the 2 villas you're living in now were both purchased with Han Chang's money. I have every right to reclaim them. Lu Yi crossed her arms and retorted defiantly. Let me make this clear. Those properties were gifts from Han Chang to me. You have no right to take them back. 3. I chuckled and said, oh really? Do you think the court will take your side? I'm Han Chang's lawful wife. I have every right to reclaim any money he spent on his mistress during our marriage. Let me make this clear. Not only will I recover every cent he gave you, but I'll also demand compensation for my emotional distress. Liu Ye snapped back furiously. Impossible. Xiaoyu is Han Chang's son. What gives you the right to claim anything back? I slammed my hand on the table and retorted. The right comes from me being the lawful wife and you being the homewrecker. Besides, do you even have a paternity test? No, you don't. Did Han Chang leave a will before he died? No, he didn't. With no will and no paternity test, who knows whose bastard child that really is. Lu Yi slumped in the chair, utterly defeated. I then had security escort her out. Lu Yi sneered arrogantly, Qin man, I have the formula now. Let's see how long you can keep up this act. Soon enough. You'll be begging me in tears. After the company dismissed Lu Yi's associates, I assembled a new team. The team consists of elite professionals from top tech companies, all young and driven. Our company's profits could have multiplied several times over if it weren't for Lu Yi's parasitic relatives. Han Chang used to turn a blind eye to this, but I'm not like him. This time I'm shifting strategies. Instead of focusing on physical stores, we'll handle production and sales ourselves. By moving to online channels, I'm confident our profits will double in no time. A week later, I reclaimed both villas and recovered some of the money Han Chang had previously transferred to Lu Yi. She still owes me 3 million. I kicked Lu Yi out, leaving her homeless and wandering like a stray dog. Furious, she called me and snarled, Qin man, you just wait. I just received the 50 million insurance payout today. This is definitely a day worth celebrating. One evening, I ran into Lu Yi and Han Qingqing. Lu Yi said arrogantly, Qin man, I'll give you one last chance. Will you share the property with us or not? Otherwise, don't blame me for what happens next. Don't get cocky. I'll find the evidence and send you to prison. These shameless people have stooped so low as to openly demand a share of the property, but I worked my fingers to the bone for this wealth. Why on earth would I share it with you? I chuckled. Oh really? So what if you found evidence? You can barely keep yourself afloat. What makes you think you can take me on? Lu Yi confidently pulled over the timid ant standing nearby and declared, I have Qingqing. She's agreed to invest 5 million in my venture. Plus, I hold the core formula. Just you wait. I'll bring you down and ruin your reputation for good. Han Chang left me with nothing. But as long as I have this formula, I'm not afraid to take you on. I'm genuinely curious to see the look on her face when she finally figures out the formula and realizes it's a fake. This is the first time I've seen someone so arrogantly daydreaming before they've even accomplished anything. Where would my sister-in-law get that kind of money? She married into that family with no status, living like a dog, just like I did in my past life. Convincing her brutal husband is impossible. I caught a flicker of panic in my sister-in-law's eyes. She must be hiding something. I leaned close to Han Qingqing and whispered, does your husband know you invested this much money? Han Qingqing turned deathly pale at the mention of her husband. Qin man, you vile woman, you seized all my brother's assets, and now you're trying to sabotage my marriage. My brother will haunt you from beyond the grave. I let out a cold laugh. In my past life, she never stopped sowing discord. Now it's my turn to return the favor. I cleared my throat and told Han Qingqing with a hint of satisfaction, I didn't scatter your brother's ashes to the wind. I flushed them down the drain. He won't become a ghost. He'll just turn into maggots. Han Qingqing's face flushed with rage as she tried to hit me, but the bodyguards held her back. Han Qingqing and Lu Yi shouted in unison, Qin man, you bitch, I'll make you pay for this. I didn't want to waste time arguing with them and decided to just drive away. I've submitted the recording to my lawyer. Lu Yi still owes me 3 million, and she just admitted having 5 million. I'm confident the court will transfer those funds to me. Soon after, I received the 3 million. Now Lu Yi only has 2 million left and needs to scramble for another 3 million. I suspect she has more tricks up her sleeve than I do. Lately, we've been getting some hate comments in our live stream. It turns out Willow was the one spreading rumors online, claiming I murdered my husband. Overnight, our live stream was flooded with hateful comments, and many orders got returned for no reason. They're falsely claiming our products cause allergic reactions, some even saying people developed skin lesions after use. I know Willow's behind all this. The company's social media account is flooded with hate comments. The one who isn't loved is the real homewrecker. How dare you, such a heartless mistress, have the nerve to sell products here. You're exactly what people online call a gold digger. I can't believe I've used your products for 10 years, murdering your husband for the inheritance. I'll never buy anything from Elegance Charm again. Homewrecker, bitch. You'll die a horrible death for killing your husband to cash in on his insurance. PR asked if I needed to handle it, and I said not for now. Let the situation develop a bit longer. My assistant anxiously asked me, Mr. Qin, the production supervisor is asking if we should reduce the order quantity. I tapped my pen on the table, thought for a moment, then had a sudden idea. Give this production order to the supervisor. After looking at it, the assistant frowned and double-checked. Mr. Qin, this order quantity is 5 times the original. Are you sure it's this one? I said with conviction. Yes, this is the one. I'm going for the knockout blow. These return costs are nothing. I've been receiving funeral wreaths and hell money these days, yet I'm still quite pleased. The more hostile and furious netizens are with me now, the more remorseful they'll feel when the truth comes out. These are like golden toads spitting out coins, I had the livestream staff announce. We absolutely won't use substandard products for 618 discounts. Feel free to come to our livestream and shop then. This sparked another wave of insults. Anyone who buys your products during 618 is a fool. I'll follow just to see who actually buys from you then. No discount. Fine. Even if there were discounts, I still wouldn't buy. I've already booked Xinjiang. It's similar to yours, but the results are way better. Gained another wave of followers, almost at 2 million now. I typed Xinjiang into the search bar just like the netizens suggested. I saw Liuya streaming live with over 10,000 viewers in the chat. Her follower count has passed 1 million and is still climbing. She's promoting her new product Xinjiang during the livestream. This is actually our product. She just slapped her logo on it. Hey everyone, this is our newly patented formula. It leaves your skin feeling super comfortable without any tightness. Check out the noticeable difference between the two sides of my face after using it. I'm not using any beauty filters, guys. Just look at my hands and you'll see. After using the willow leaf product, you can clearly see the lifting effect on the left side of the face. That's the genuine product working. I wonder if the products she manufactures will deliver the same results while promoting her own products. She never misses a chance to smear our company, many fans asked in surprise. Count me in, I want to buy it now, Liu said. This product isn't in stock yet. We'll release it on June 15th. Make sure to tune into our live stream then. Everyone, remember, only our Xinjiang is the genuine product. Our items are 100 times better than Yan Feng's, guaranteed authentic and safe for both pregnant women and children. Willow intentionally scheduled her campaign to start 3 days before the 618 shopping festival. I'm also really looking forward to that day. When June 15th arrived, Willow was already in the live stream room bright and early. The tasks I assigned to the PR team were also fully prepared first thing in the morning. I brewed my coffee and now I'm ready for the show. Liu brought her son into the live stream. The moment of truth has arrived. Today my 5-year-old son will be our model. If I didn't have complete confidence in my own products, I would never use them on my child. In her previous life, Liu had also dragged her 5-year-old son into her live streams just to make money, but she was using genuine products in her past life. Who can guarantee these are authentic now? Well, it's her son after all, not mine. The live stream chat erupted with praise. Now this is a company with integrity. If they're willing to let their own children use it, it must be a trustworthy product. Put it on sale. I'm ready to buy. I want some too. It works well and it's safe for children. Seeing how eager her fans were to buy the product, Liu got so excited that she poured out a bottle of lotion and applied it directly to her son's face. When the live stream audience saw her actually using it on her son, they cheered excitedly. Such an honest product. We're buying it. Put up the purchase link. I want to buy it too. But no one noticed the son standing beside Liu, whose expression began to show distress as he kept tugging at her skirt. Looking closer, I saw Xiaoyu's face starting to swell and turn red, and he began scratching it incessantly with his hand. Some fans left the live stream right after purchasing the product, while other observant viewers started noticing that something was off with Xiaoyu. Blogger, what's wrong with your son? Could it be an allergic reaction? Eager to keep earning money, Liu quickly had someone take her son away and hastily explained, no, my son was just being mischievous earlier and drew on his own face with a marker. I'll demonstrate right now. It's completely hypoallergenic, safe for both pregnant women and children. Liu opened a new jar of moisturizer and applied it to her face. Though her expression seemed slightly forced, she maintained the charade. See everyone, no tightness, just pure hydration. The live chat erupted with support. Bought it for my wife. I trust you. Moms raising kids need to stick together. You have my support. We've all got your back. Just placed my order. Soon Willow's face grew increasingly red, and she began scratching at it, leaving the live stream audience stunned. Creator, are you having an allergic reaction? Look at your own face. Oh my god, it's swollen like a pig's head. What's going on? Your face is practically falling apart, and you're still trying to sell products here. Refund now. Oh my god, so glad I didn't buy it. If I had, I'd be losing big time. They keep claiming to be a dupe for Yanfeng, but I'm afraid it'll ruin my skin. That blogger said the owner of Yanfeng is a homewrecker. Could that just be a rumor? Liu felt her face burning. Catching her reflection in the makeup mirror, she saw her face was bright red and swollen like a pig's head. She immediately ended the live stream. Sipping my coffee while watching Luya's swollen face was absolutely exhilarating. A homewrecker will always be a homewrecker. They just can't resist stealing things. Now they're finally facing the consequences of their theft. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu went into shock and was rushed to the hospital. The doctors said it was an allergic reaction to skincare products, and they even detected carcinogens. But the formula I gave her only reduced 2 ingredients. I never added any carcinogens. How could this have happened? Lu Yi hugged Xiaoyu tightly, pounding her fists against the wall in helpless fury. You'll be fine, Xiaoyu. Mom will make sure you get better. She's getting exactly what she deserves. When Lu Yi framed me and caused me to be beaten until I miscarried, she should have known this day would come. But the real show is yet to begin. Lu Yi was busy taking care of Xiaoyu, unaware that all fingers were now pointing at her. We have posted a legal notice online, stating that Lu Yi has been spreading false rumors about our company. Meanwhile, the police have also issued a statement that Lu has been selling unregulated 3No products online. Her store has been shut down, and netizens who have purchased her products are advised not to use them. Lu Yi is facing bankruptcy, hefty fines, and potential detention. She is currently on the run, hiding from the authorities. Our company went viral and made it to the trending list. Those netizens who had been badmouthing me are now feeling pretty ashamed. To make up for my earlier disrespect towards President Qin, I'm going to buy a full set of Yanfeng skincare products as an apology. Exactly. We were completely fooled by homewreckers like Lu Yi. I've been using Yanfeng products for over a decade without ever switching brands. They've always worked perfectly for me. As many beauty influencers have confirmed, they've consistently used our products without ever experiencing allergic reactions. Many netizens began apologizing after the 618 sales event. When our sales volume surged to 200 times the usual amount, we had to remove the product listing due to insufficient inventory, yet the online community's enthusiasm seemed far from satisfied. Even without ready stock, we're willing to wait. We just hope President Qin will give us a chance to make amends. The livestream went viral, and my follower count skyrocketed to over 5 million. Our sales on June 18th alone matched what we used to achieve in 3 whole years. I really have to thank Lu Yi for driving so much traffic my way. Those netizens who used to curse me out and send funeral wreaths have now become loyal customers, bringing in steady cash flow like a golden toad spitting coins. My assistant brought me a cup of coffee and asked with sparkling eyes, President Qin, how did you predict our orders would skyrocket today? When it comes down to it, I have to thank Lu Yi. Without her creating that media frenzy, I never could have handled this windfall of fortune. Truth be told, I was taking a gamble, betting that I could afford to lose, while Lu Yi couldn't. With the internet being so widespread, the cost of spreading rumors is minimal. I just used public opinion in reverse. Those netizens who hurled the most vicious insults at me back then must be feeling at least a twinge of guilt now. That evening, I received a message from Lu Yi. Qin man, let's meet up. Fine by me. I happen to have plans with someone anyway. I arrived at the Western restaurant as scheduled. Lu Yi was fully geared up with a face mask on, but you could still tell her face was quite swollen. Gone was her former arrogance, replaced by a gentle tone as she pretended to have a sudden epiphany. Qin man, I don't blame you. I only blame my own greed, wanting Han Cheng's inheritance, dreaming of making a fortune with the formula, cutting corners by buying industrial-grade raw materials. This is what happens when you always look for shortcuts. It turns out Willow cut corners by buying substandard industrial materials that even contained carcinogens. Willow had someone bring 2 cups of coffee and immediately knelt before me, as if she'd suddenly seen the light. I know you don't drink alcohol but love coffee, sister, so I'll substitute coffee for wine and beg for your forgiveness. I was wrong before. I shouldn't have tried to steal Hancheng from you. Could you please show some mercy? Xiaoyu has no money for medical treatment and is in the hospital right now. Can you save him? I brought all this on myself. I never should have set you up. You've been a mother too, so you must understand how a mother's heart aches. If you drink this coffee, let's call it even. I'll give up my claim to Hancheng's inheritance and turn over a new leaf. I promise. She held the coffee out to me, her eyes pleading as she begged me to take a sip. I drank half the cup right in front of her, and almost immediately, my head started spinning. Lu Yi smiled with satisfaction, deliberately making an excuse to go to the restroom. I faintly heard her make a phone call as she stepped out. It's done. The money's been transferred to WeChat. She's at a Western restaurant. Just grab her, then threaten her into handing over all her money. I've got the formula. From now on, as long as I use better ingredients, I'm guaranteed to make the rich list. The top priority is to get rid of Qin Man. She's the stumbling block. So Willow Leaf was planning to kidnap me all along. Well, if she's so determined to do it, let her go ahead. The next day, news broke that a wealthy socialite had been kidnapped, with the kidnappers demanding a ransom of $100 million or they'd kill the hostage. But Willow Leaf miscalculated. The person taken wasn't me. It was Han Qingqing who got tied up. She had asked to meet me yesterday too. The moment Lu Yi stepped out, Han Qingqing showed up right after. Lu Yi thought I'd drunk half the coffee, but I hadn't swallowed a single drop. I'd spat it all back into the cup. Han Qingqing watched as I ordered a whole table of dishes. Just as I was about to take a sip of coffee, she snatched the coffee away furiously. You vicious woman, you killed my brother. And now you have the nerve to sit here feasting. If it weren't for your meddling, would my husband have found out I secretly took out $5 million? You'd better pay me back this money immediately, or you'll regret it. Consumed by rage, Han Qingqing downed the coffee in one gulp. She sat across from me, wolfing down her food, completely forgetting she was supposed to be here for revenge. Turns out Han Qingqing's husband found out it was her and secretly squandered $5 million. Then proceeded to beat her up. Her husband even threatened Han Qingqing, saying if she couldn't get the money back, she'd be in for more than just a divorce. Han Qingqing is incredibly foolish to even dare come looking for me. Why don't I just let them face the consequences of their own actions? Han Qingqing collapsed after just a few bites. From the car, I watched as two people dragged her away. Everything that followed was supposed to unfold exactly as Lu Yi had described. After being tied up, Han Qingqing was immediately ordered to hand over her money by the kidnappers, but where would she get any money? The kidnappers later informed Lu Yi that they had abducted the wrong person. The kidnapper leader scratched his head, uncertain, and asked Lu Yi, "What should we do now? Should we let her go?" Lu Yi had a sudden inspiration. "We've already kidnapped her. Why let her go? Just call her husband. He's rich. Or else we'll kill her." So the kidnappers called Han Qingqing's husband, demanding a ransom of $1 billion, or they would kill her. Han Qingqing's husband ignored the situation and instead egged on the kidnappers. "Go ahead and kill her. I'd be thrilled if you did. I'd get the accidental death insurance payout. How about I pay you extra to just finish her off?" Turns out Han Qingqing's husband is one cold-hearted bastard, unable to get money from Han Qingqing. Lu Yi had to squeeze some of her private savings out of her. In the end, they let Han Qingqing go. After Han Qingqing returned home, her husband immediately divorced her and even had one of her legs broken. Later, Lu Yi's son died of kidney failure in the hospital, and Lu Yi was unable to see her son one last time. Lu Yi held her son in her arms, weeping uncontrollably with a heart-wrenching cry, her eyes filled with a murderous glare. "Xiao Yu, it's all my fault." "Oh, I know, you must be playing a trick on me. Hiding from mommy. I found you now. Won't you please wake up? I'm begging you." Lu Yi pounded the floor desperately, with no way to vent the turmoil inside her. "I've worked so hard all for you. With you gone, what's the point of me living anymore? 5. Don't you worry. I'll make that bitch Qin man pay even if it's the last thing I do." Lu Yi not only owed Han Qingqing money, but she'd also taken out multiple high-interest loans. Right now, it's not the police who are most eager to find Lu Yi. It's the loan sharks she borrowed from. After I had the court transfer $3 million to me, Lu Yi turned to loan sharks to cover the shortfall. One of the men in black clothes kicked Lu Yi right in the shoulder. "Damn it, I've been looking for you forever. And you finally show your face. You borrowed $3 million from our boss, plus $2 million in interest. When are you gonna pay it back?" Lu Yi scrambled on his hands and knees, kneeling before the boss and begging for mercy. "Please, just give me a little more time. I had the formula for Yanfeng. If we just use some higher-end ingredients this time, it's bound to sell like crazy." But no matter what Lu Yi said, the boss remained unmoved and slapped him twice across the face. "Lu Yi, do you take me for a fool? Do you really think netizens would still trust someone who buys counterfeit goods? If you dare to act shamelessly, we have plenty of ways to deal with you." In a panic, Lu Yi abandoned Xiao Yu and rushed out, knowing she had nowhere else to go. She had no choice but to run to the police station across the street. She begged the police to arrest her immediately, so she could at least save her own life. But the man outside said furiously, "Lu Yi, don't think just because you've disfigured yourself I won't recognize you. You can run, but you can't hide. Everyone inside is one of us. Either stay in there and suffer, or come out now and pay your debt." Lu Yi was arrested for producing counterfeit goods containing carcinogens that caused allergic reactions in multiple people, charged with kidnapping, corporate espionage, and intellectual property theft. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison. I bet she's having a miserable time behind bars. Death would be too easy for her. I want her to suffer endlessly. That's far more satisfying than death. I'm not worried about what Willow might do to me when she gets out. Because she'll have her own problems to deal with. I never took out any loan shark debts, and I certainly didn't kidnap Han Qingqing. There are others who'll be watching her every move more closely than I ever would. After Han Qingqing had her legs broken, she ended up living under a bridge, surviving by scavenging through trash. I swore I'd kill Lu Yi the moment she showed her face. That viral scandal last time catapulted our company to industry dominance. Our niche brand, which we've kept alive for 20 years, finally started gaining recognition after I got my second chance. We're committed to producing ethical products with no substandard materials. This time I made it onto the Forbes list. Not the rich ladies list. On my 95th birthday, I gave an interview. The host asked me, "Granny Chin, what's the secret to longevity?" I replied with a smile, "Stay away from men." It had everyone in the room roaring with laughter. It might be a joke, but to me, it's the truth. Although I never remarried, I established several orphanages. They are all my children. Story 2. I returned to the day he confessed his feelings for me. The young man sat cross-legged, leaning lazily against the back of the sofa, a freshly lit cigarette between his fingers. His gaze wandered casually around the room before finally settling on a corner. "Let's go with her." Amidst the eerie silence, his voice was neither loud nor soft, but it carried a certain flippancy. "Hey, I like you." 01. The private room was noisy and chaotic, the air thick with the smell of tobacco and alcohol, creating a decadent atmosphere. "Hey, everyone quiet down. It's time for Huai's truth or dare punishment." The group playing cards stood in a circle, and a buzzcut man, reading from a card, loudly declared, "Choose any woman present." He paused, his voice rising excitedly, "And confess your love to her." Whoa, Huai just lost one round, and the dare is this intense. Isn't the main lady not here? Who's left for Huai to confess to? The room was shocked, buzzing with discussion, when the only seated young man casually leaned back on the sofa and lit a cigarette, as if oblivious to the others. "Huai, you should wait for Lan." He slightly lifted his eyes. The teasing, noisy chatter around him immediately quieted. With a demeanor too lazy to fully open his eyelids, he scanned the room for a second and casually fixed his gaze on the farthest corner. "Let's go with her." He lifted his chin slightly, speaking in his usual languid tone, which seemed quite flippant. "Hey, I like you." I was transported back to that moment. 02. 18-year-old Jiang Huai, with sharp features and bold eyes, moved with an effortless charm under the dim lights. Our eyes met for a moment, and I felt a flush of emotion. Huai, this, no one expected Jiang Huai to end the game so quickly and casually, choosing me as the lucky one. The buzzcut man, Fang Yi, hesitated in a low voice. "Huai, that's Lan's sister. Isn't this inappropriate?" Today was Shen Lan's 18th birthday party, and everyone at the school knew she liked Jiang Huai. Everyone was anticipating whether tonight would be the night they would finally become a couple. And then this unexpected turn of events occurred. Fang Yi looked at me, noticing my eyes red with tears, and was shocked. "She's a good student. You've scared her to tears." Jiang Huai had already looked away, his cigarette nearing his lips, but stopped when he heard this and looked at me again. His brows furrowed slightly, and the atmosphere around him cooled down several degrees, seemingly dissatisfied because I could not take a joke. The air grew tense, and just as Fang Yi scratched his head, thinking of how to lighten the mood, I finally managed to steady my trembling heart and spoke. "Say it again." I stared at Jiang Huai, my tone firm though my voice slightly quivered. I didn't hear clearly. "Say it again." 03. At 17, I was insecure, sensitive, and reclusive, yet I had a strong sense of pride. Normally, I was the type of person who wouldn't stand out in a crowd, but because my sister was Shenlan, I had to endure a lot of people's scrutiny. The Shen family was a real estate tycoon in Jiangqing. Shenlan and I were complete opposites. She was beautiful, vibrant, and naturally belonged in the spotlight. I was adopted by the Shen family to provide Shenlan with a companion. Shenlan was sociable and loved to have fun, always taking me along wherever she went. Over time, I became known to others as Shenlan's tag-along. Shenlan always told me I should be more outgoing. She always encouraged me to make more friends. But she had no idea how much I despised those gatherings. My reticence and awkwardness only served to highlight her vibrant and commanding presence. On her 18th birthday, I did what I usually did, hid myself in a shadowy corner, enduring the event and hoping it would end soon, until Jiang Huai looked my way. I knew Jiang Huai, as well as all the people around Shenlan. Jiang Huai smoked, drank, skipped classes, and hung out in nightclubs. He was the worst of them. A mere lift of his brows exuded a charming nonchalance, which made the girls scream and chase after him. He could easily treat affections as a joke, uncaring about how his games could offend or be abrupt to the girls. He embodied all the traits I despised in adolescent boys. Insecure as I was, I felt so annoyed that I was left red-faced, unable to find anywhere to hide. But I didn't notice that his cigarette had slipped through his fingers and fallen to the ground. Back then, I hated Jiang Huai. But now, I wanted to get to know him all over again. When Jiang Huai confessed to me, asking him to repeat it seemed to shock everyone even more. Who would dare to talk to Jiang Huai in such a commanding tone, especially when it was coming from me, who was usually so reserved? An eerie silence fell, broken only when the door of the private room was pushed open from the outside, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Turning around, it was Shenlan, who had gone to the neighboring room to socialize. "Hey, why is it so quiet here?" She entered, her high heels clicking and her red lips bright, walking straight to the card table with a smile. "What are you all playing?" Fang Yi still held the dare card in his hand. Seeing Shenlan approaching, he quickly handed it over to her. "Perfect timing, Sister Lan. I just lost at cards and was wondering which girl to dare." He playfully made a heart gesture at Shenlan, teasing, "Sister Lan, I love you." Everyone followed suit with the teasing. And the atmosphere in the room finally returned to normal. "Well, sorry to disappoint, but I'm already interested in someone else." Shenlan walked over to Jiang Huai, her smile bright and confident. "Jiang Huai, be my boyfriend." Jiang Huai had already averted his gaze before Shenlan approached. He lowered his eyes and pressed the unsmoked cigarette into the ashtray. His voice was not lazy, but deep and intense. "I'm not interested." "Oh, well, we can talk about it when you are." Shenlan shrugged her shoulders, and under the curious gazes of everyone, she casually called for everyone to join in the game again. The room became noisy once more. I gave Jiang Huai a deep look and slipped out of the room unnoticed. Outside, the streets were bustling and neon lights flickered. I stood under the bus stop sign at the entrance of the club, lost in thought. In my previous life, I had some interactions with Jiang Huai as we attended the same university but different majors. He always coincidentally appeared when I needed him most, but I thought it was only because of his sister that he helped, and I avoided him as much as possible. Later, he became much more stable, and I was no longer so insecure and sensitive. There were moments when I doubted, except for that one joke. He never told me he liked me. Even at the end, when he lay dying in a pool of blood, his last words were with a smile. "Don't cry." Lost in these thoughts, a shadow suddenly cast over me. "Can't a good student take a joke?" Jiang Huai spoke with a teasing smile, but when I looked up, his smile froze. "You are crying." I blinked, tears blurring my vision. The 18-year-old Jiang Huai seemed to merge with the 22-year-old one. His voice softened, there was a hint of panic in the air. "Don't cry." 07. At 18, Jiang Huai wasn't good at comforting others. His tone softened, but his face was tense and his gaze heavy. Seeing my tears still streaming, he suddenly kicked the bus stop sign in irritation. I was shocked and immediately stopped crying, staring at him in astonishment. Jiang Huai glared at me for a couple of seconds, then turned away abruptly, shoving his hands into his pockets. His entire posture radiated frustration. He really looked fierce. His tone was full of impatience. "If you think I'm taking advantage of you, I'll just give it back. There's no need to cry." I stared blankly at his back and asked dazedly, "How can you give it back?" It took a while before I heard Jiang Huai's voice, feigning indifference. "How about you confess to me once?" 08. The night breeze was cool, creating an awkward distance between us. Silent. I noticed Jiang Huai's increasingly tense back and felt a pang in my heart, but I pretended to be amused and laughed, changing the subject. "Do you have a tissue?" I wiped my face roughly, shocked at my own dishevelment. Just as I was about to wipe my face again, a strong masculine scent enveloped me, and hands cradled my face. Jiang Huai leaned in, his fingertips brushing away the tears on my cheeks. He avoided my eyes, trying to cover it up by saying, "Tissues are so dirty." I looked at him blankly, his serious demeanor somehow amusing. I sniffled and masked my own feelings. "There's a strong smell of smoke." Jiang Huai's movements halted abruptly, his fingertips tensed, then relaxed considerably as they touched me again, unsure whether to be tender or cautious. His eyelids lifted slightly, his voice huskier. "Do you like non-smokers?" From my angle, I saw Jiang Huai's pupils shimmering under the streetlight, warming my heart. This time, it was my turn to avoid his eyes. I didn't know if Jiang Huai would still smoke 4 years later, didn't know why he was kind to me, didn't know when he started liking me. I knew nothing about Jiang Huai, my understanding of him was based solely on prejudices. 09. Jiang Huai walked me home that night. That night I dreamed of a time in my freshman year when I was taking a bus to the suburbs from school. Just as the bus doors were about to close, Jiang Huai appeared out of nowhere, squeezing in at the last second. The bus at the school gate was always crowded. I was huddled next to the aisle handrail, trying not to touch anyone, when suddenly a sharp stop made people fall towards me, and I fell backwards, and landed right against Jiang Huai's chest. Seeing it was him, I panicked more than if I had fallen to the ground. Sorry, I tried to distance myself, but Jiang Huai suddenly reached out to grab the seat in front of me, trapping me in that space. He leaned in. Are you that afraid of me? I remained silent, slightly turning my head away. He straightened up. Where are you headed? I answered non-committally. To the suburbs. I had to check a manuscript with an interviewee for a teacher. Want to be a journalist. I was stunned, not knowing how he knew. Yeah, Jiang Huai seemed to chuckle. A journalist who doesn't like to talk wouldn't do well. I didn't respond, feeling that Jiang Huai was looking down on me, and silently took note of it in my heart. After getting off the bus, I looked back to see Jiang Huai still on the bus. There were now many empty seats, but, yet he remained in that same spot, staring straight at me through the car window glass. His gaze was so intense, it frightened me and I quickly turned away and started to walk faster. I never really questioned where Jiang Huai was heading that day, nor did I ponder why someone who usually drove a Porsche to school had taken the bus. But sitting on the bus yesterday, I bluntly asked him, do you know my name? Xin Yu. Yes, the you that means surplus. I mocked myself, jokingly, just a friendly reminder. Next time you confess, you should call out the person's name. Yelling hey really lacks sincerity. God knows, my palms were already covered in nervous sweat. I didn't dare to see Jiang Huai's reaction. After speaking, I tilted my head against the window and closed my eyes, pretending to rest. I thought, I'm already 21 years old. I shouldn't still be that timid. Insecure child who gets anxious over speaking to others. Although I still wasn't very talkative later on, I could at least speak competently about my profession and had become a favored rising star journalist among the teachers before even graduating. I had followed many stories. The goal of a journalist is always to seek the objective truth. Now, I was here to find out about Jiang Huai. In my drowsiness, I seemed to have really fallen asleep. But when Jiang Huai propped up my face and rested my head on his shoulder, I was awake. I heard a voice above my head, soft as a whisper. He said, it's the you that means a lifetime. In the last semester of our senior year, Jiang Huai still treated skipping classes and leaving early as the norm. I waited at school for several days without a chance to meet him. Instead, I heard quite a bit of gossip about him these past few days. Jiang Huai was confessed to by a girl and, annoyed, he knocked her to the ground. Jiang Huai was drinking at a bar, flamboyantly spending 388,000 in one night. Jiang Huai, well, these were all old topics and also the source of my previous prejudices against him. I just saw Jiang Huai at the school lane, with a group of vocational high school guys. It looked like they were about to start a fight. Hearing this, I was stunned for a moment, then grabbed my backpack and ran towards the school gate. When I reached the alley, it was just in time to see Jiang Huai knocking down the opposing leader with a punch, calmly withdrawing his hand. As the two groups started cursing and fighting, Jiang Huai stepped back to the side of the wall, casually putting his hands in his pockets, seemingly about to pull something out. Then hesitated. I suspected he was about to pull out a cigarette to smoke, but for some reason, he didn't. Perhaps at that moment, he just happened to look up and see me standing at the entrance of the alley. We locked eyes silently for 2 seconds. Then Jiang Huai suddenly turned and walked towards a fork in the alley. Without thinking, I chased after him, calling out, Jiang Huai. Hearing my voice, Jiang Huai stiffened and walked even faster. In my haste, I tripped over my own feet, letting out a yelp. Just as I was about to fall face first, I once again ended up securely in Jiang Huai's arms, causing him to grunt. I looked up and said in unison with him, why are you running? I stood up from Jiang Huai's embrace and explained, I heard you were fighting here. Came to see. What's there to see? I tilted my head and thought, seeing you like this for the first time, it feels. Under Jiang Huai's obviously nervous yet trying to be calm gaze, I smiled. It feels quite handsome. Jiang Huai's lips subtly curled into a smile. He quickly turned his head and coughed, making a sound from his nose. I then sincerely asked, but Jiang Huai, don't you need to go to class and study? When Jiang Huai's followers had finished dealing with the opponents and found this fork in the road, I was solemnly stuffing a thick stack of notebooks into Jiang Huai's hands, speaking earnestly as if entrusting a last wish. Jiang Huai, Here's the translation with more natural English expressions. These are the notes I've compiled from all the subjects. Take them and study hard. Okay. Jiang Huai's grip on the notebook was so tight that his knuckles bulged, his face alternating between shades of pale and flushed, teeth clenched tightly. His followers, terrified, hid back in the corners of the room, shrinking their heads. Before doing so, one of them weakly reminded, "Brother Huai, remember, don't hit a girl." Seeing Jiang Huai's eyelid twitch, I quickly added, "I stayed up 3 nights in a row to make these." Through clenched teeth, Jiang Huai managed to squeeze out a word, "Fine." Seizing the moment, I pushed my luck and asked Jiang Huai to join me for a study session in the library during the evening self-study period the next day. Perhaps resigned to his fate, Jiang Huai agreed readily this time. The next day, I paid special attention to whether Jiang Huai came to school, knowing he did. I happily brought several sets of test papers to the library, planning to work through them with him. Before Jiang Huai arrived, I bumped into my deskmate at the library. My deskmate was a top student, always ranking first in our grade, while I perpetually came in second. He was elegant and reserved, typically quiet, and we were both seen as nerds by others, to the extent that there were rumors about us dating. Being quite introverted myself, he was the only classmate I could really talk to. As we often grouped together to tackle difficult academic problems, he called out to me, "Xinyu." I walked over, and he pointed at an English passage, asking me how to interpret it. My English was better than his, and in gratitude for all the times he patiently explained tough physics concepts to me, I sat down next to him to help him understand the passage. It discussed views on teenage romance in high school. After explaining it, my deskmate suddenly asked, "What's your opinion on teenage romance in high school?" "I've never thought about it. They say if you don't date in school, it will be harder to find someone later." "Are you planning to find a boyfriend in university?" "Yeah, I'll think about it then." "Are you aiming for university A?" "Yeah." My deskmate smiled. "I'm planning to apply there too." I sincerely wished him good luck. After speaking, I paused, feeling a sense of déjà vu, as if this conversation had happened before, back then. After finishing our talk, I looked up to see Jiang Huai standing not too far away by a bookshelf, watching me with an inscrutable look. It seemed that shortly after that incident, rumors spread around school that Jiang Huai had suddenly started to focus on his studies and his grades had improved dramatically. I felt like I was onto something, and suddenly looked up. Jiang Huai was leaning against the bookshelf, his gaze more elusive than before I could understand his look fully. He turned and walked away. Jiang Huai always seems to run whenever he sees me in this lifetime, muttering to myself. I didn't delay chasing after him. Fortunately, he hadn't gone far and stopped by a wall outside the library. Catching up to him, I called out breathlessly, "Jiang Huai, you." He turned around, his eyes dark and intense. Without warning, he suddenly pulled me against the wall, pinning me with his body. He looked down into my eyes, his breath tickling my nose and making my scalp tingle. "Weren't you always scared of me? What are you trying to do these days?" I was scared of Jiang Huai. Even now, his aggressive demeanor was overwhelming, and my heart raced uncontrollably, making me uncomfortable. I was speechless, and his eyes darkened further. He scoffed softly, his voice hoarse, "If you're scared, then stop coming closer." As he said this, he let go of my waist and stood back up. I sensed he was about to leave and instinctively grabbed his sleeve. "Why?" As I calmed my racing heart, I looked at him and said matter-of-factly, "Why don't you just stop being scary?" "I can't control it." "What can't you control?" It might have been my incessant questions that annoyed Jiang Huai, as his eyes seemed to swirl with storms, as if fierce waves were about to erupt. He tilted his head and flashed a charming smile, whispering one word, "Desire." He leaned closer, his lips near my ear, his voice lowered. "Xinyu, do you understand?" I didn't understand. How could a current pass through my eardrum and numb half of my body? I slightly turned my head away, trying to cool my burning ear. Then, "Why don't you solve a few sets of 5x3 exercises? It might help you clear your mind and control your desires." 15. True to his former career as a journalist, Jiang Huai was somehow persuaded by me. On the way back to the library, he didn't walk beside me but trailed behind at a distance. In the library, he didn't sit next to or opposite me, but chose a spot diagonally in front of me, pretending not to be with me. I looked at him, puzzled, and he just nodded his chin at me as if to say, "Mind your own business." After school, he returned to his usual self and walked me home, so I didn't think much of it. On the way, I asked him, "Jiang Huai, what university do you plan to attend in the future?" I had attended a university, a top-tier institution in our country, and miraculously, Jiang Huai had also managed to get in from a much lower expected level. I thought he would have something ambitious to say, but he replied nonchalantly, I haven't thought about it. His voice was casual and somewhat aloof. Anyway, my family has money. I can just buy my way into a school. My face turned pale, and I stopped in my tracks. 16. In my previous life, when the college entrance examination results were announced, the news that Jiang Huai had gotten into a university caused a sensation. Many couldn't believe that Jiang Huai, who always skipped classes and didn't study, could get into a university. There were rumors that he had used his family's influence, given their extensive business and political connections. The situation even caught the attention of the Education Bureau and the city government, leading to numerous investigations and rampant rumors. During that tumultuous time, one night, Jiang Huai suddenly appeared at the Shin residence. I was downstairs getting water when I saw him sitting on the living room sofa, having been there for who knows how long, which surprised me. Jiang Huai walked up to me step by step. I could immediately see his disheveled state. Speaking seemed difficult for him as he said, I got in on my own. I understood he was referring to a university, but I didn't understand why he felt the need to tell me this. I responded awkwardly. Oh, Jiang Huai's expression was so distraught. He looked like he was about to cry. It was the most vulnerable I had ever seen him. It was as if he was clinging to his last straw, his plea barely forceful. You believe me? I was a bit scared and squeezed the water glass in my hand. I believe you. He saw my fear but also recognized the sincerity in my words. Jiang Huai seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He tried to smile, but sadness overwhelmed him in an instant. He raised his hand above my head, and I instinctively dodged. His hand paused, then withdrew. Go to sleep. I came to see your sister. I didn't understand, assuming he was just overwhelmed by stress, but I also felt sorry for him for a while. With Jiang Huai's personality, he usually didn't care about rumors. But he had taken that incident seriously. How could he say something like that now? My face was pale, and I was almost in tears. Jiang Huai, don't joke like that. I spoke slowly, making sure he heard my certainty. You got in on your own. Jiang Huai paused, probably trying to lighten my mood, and teased with a smile. You really believe in me? Huh. I nodded vigorously. Yes, even though I once disliked him, I never doubted him about this matter. Jiang Huai watched me silently, his gaze earnest and focused. Okay. I wasn't sure which okay he was responding to, but suddenly, I felt relaxed. 17. I started dragging Jiang Huai to the library every day, occasionally bringing him practice problems. I was in the top class while he was in the average class 7, requiring me to go down a floor to reach his classroom. It seemed that Jiang Huai always avoided me at school. I rarely managed to catch him at the classroom door, and he never sat with me in the library. In the cafeteria, he stopped me with a look whenever I tried to sit next to him, but after school, he walked with me as usual. I felt a bit aggrieved and couldn't understand why Jiang Huai was so hot and cold with me. To others, my behavior made me look like just another girl hopelessly chasing after Jiang Huai. Rumors began to spread more widely around the school, and more people looked at me strangely. I wasn't deaf to their whispers. That's the nerd from class 1, isn't it? How could Jiang Huai ever like someone like her? Isn't she just humiliating herself? I heard she's Shenlan's sister. She's even trying to steal the guy her sister likes. Shameless. I thought top students were different from us, but it turns out they are even worse. I walked past them with composure, fully aware of their guilt and discomfort from speaking ill behind others' backs. Strangely, in the past, a single bad word about me could upset me for a long time, but now, I was indifferent to the rumors. Once again in the cafeteria, I consciously sat at a distance from Jiang Huai, neither trying to get closer nor looking his way, yet I still overheard a few classmates around him. Bro Huai, wow, you've got both sisters all dizzy over you. There was a loud bang. Jiang Huai kicked the chair of the guy who spoke and cursed, your mom's dizzy. I looked up from my bowl to see Jiang Huai walking towards me with his tray. Anger still evident on his face under the shocked gazes of most of the cafeteria. He sat down beside me, and his anger faded instantly. Don't listen to them, about me, and Shenlan. I found his quick switch amusing and couldn't help but laugh, interrupting him. Jiang Huai stared at me, laughing, the harshness in him dissipating completely. I asked with a smile, so, you're not avoiding me at school anymore? I'm not. Jiang Huai gently touched my head, his tone full of apology. I'm sorry. 18. The scene of Jiang Huai touching my head in the cafeteria was captured on someone's phone. The school rumors grew even more turbulent, and even my desk mate, who usually paid no attention to others, asked me about it. He hesitated, then muttered, "You and Jiang Huai." I was still immersed in my studies and responded without looking up. After a long pause, my deskmate asked in a low voice, "Aren't you against dating in school?" I stopped writing and thought seriously for a moment. Just as I was about to answer, the class monitor came to fetch me. "Xinyu, the teacher wants to see you in his office." The class monitor looked at me with scrutiny and suspicion, waiting for me to stand up before explaining, "It's the department head." I walked out of the classroom calmly, only allowing myself to take a deep breath once out of sight. Our department head was a strict teacher feared by everyone in school. He was at the forefront of combating early romance among high school students, often scouring the school grounds at night with a flashlight, looking for boys and girls together. He used my deskmate as a benchmark when criticizing boys and me when addressing girls. He had always been quite pleasant to me but had little tolerance for Jiang Huai, knowing how little he tolerated imperfections. I took another deep breath before knocking on the office door. This was likely going to be a tough conversation. 19. The department head sat behind his desk, visibly displeased and disapproving. After I greeted him, he cut straight to the point. "Xinyu, you should stop associating with Jiang Huai. Bad company corrupts good character. What kind of person is Jiang Huai? What does it look like for a good girl like you to mix with undesirable elements? You're in your senior year now. With the college entrance exam coming up, the priority is your studies. If you don't focus now and your grades drop, you'll regret it when the exams come. You are still young, and don't be dazzled by all the fancy tricks. Once you get to college, you'll meet many more talented people. It's not too late by then, you understand." I know that if the rumors today had been about me and my deskmate, the department head wouldn't have this attitude. He simply dislikes Jiang Huai, thinking that people like him who coast through academics on the strength of their family background are parasites, hence his harsh words. I also know that if it were any other teenagers lost in their youth, the teacher's words would be correct, even precious advice. But I am, after all, a bit different from the others. I listened silently from start to finish, and only when he finished speaking did I carefully start to speak. "Teacher, Jiang Huai is also just a high school student. Although he is a bit extraordinary, he's not a bad person." That single sentence made the department head glare at me furiously. I didn't mind and continued speaking. "During the 3 years of high school, I ranked first in the school for the first time in last week's full subject mock test. That was the result of my efforts and has nothing to do with Jiang Huai. Likewise, if one day my grades drop, it won't be because of Jiang Huai, but my own issues." I pulled out a piece of paper I had prepared earlier from my pocket and handed it to the department head, which listed Jiang Huai's exam results since his senior year. Jiang Huai's lowest ranking in the exams was 500th in the school, and the highest was 200th last week. But he didn't even finish the paper every time. He could have. The department head snorted coldly, his face turning ashen. I sensed the disdain in that snort, clearly. He thought Jiang Huai's high scores were merely due to cheating. I stopped speaking, sighed deeply in my heart, and took back the paper. Prejudice is a mountain that sometimes blocks our view, making us selectively blind. I, too, was once like this. "Teacher, although I am young, I will take responsibility for my choices. Please rest assured." I bowed to him and without saying more, turned and left the department head's office. Someday, Jiang Huai will reach the summit and prove himself. I don't need to say more. Just standing with him and enjoying the view will be enough. 20. Stepping out of the department head's office, the sunlight was bright, with the sun shining gloriously. I immediately saw Jiang Huai leaning against the wall next to the staircase, dazzling even in the shade. He looked at me, his eyes filled with complex, unfathomable emotions, deep and impenetrable. I walked towards him. "Jiang Huai, what are you doing here?" He smiled at me then. How do I describe that smile? Because at that moment, my entire youth seemed to shine brilliantly. 21. From the moment I was called to the department head's office, I had guessed why Jiang Huai was avoiding me at school. He didn't want the rumors to hurt me, nor did he want the teachers to look down on me, a good student. What he didn't expect was that I didn't care about these things. What I also didn't expect was that I might not care about what people at school said, but I couldn't ignore what my sister Shenlan thought. Shenlan didn't attend one middle school but studied at the top private school in the city, sometimes staying in an apartment there. Our parents were very busy, often not at home, leaving me alone at home most of the time. I hadn't seen Shenlan for a few days. When we met again, it was Friday evening. I was eating alone at the dining table when I heard the clicking of Shenlan's high heels. She rushed over to me, cupped my face with her hands. "Ah, you, I heard you and Jiang Huai are together." I almost choked on my food, struggling to maintain her composure. She said hesitantly, "No, no," sensing something was off. Shenlong quickly let go of my hand, sat down beside me, and exhaled. "I knew it. I didn't believe it. Jianghuai is totally not your type." I was taken aback, momentarily at a loss for words. After starting university, I had pondered what kind of partner I would seek. In my mind, he was not particularly tall or handsome, but he was neat, a gentle, polite, and modest gentleman, all characteristics that Jianghuai did not possess. It wasn't that I hadn't encountered such people in university. When my classmate confessed his feelings to me, I rejected him without a second thought. That day, when he asked me about not dating early, I wanted to tell him, if it were Jianghuai, maybe I could accept it. Getting personally involved in a story is a journalist's taboo. Yet with Jianghuai, I was no longer objective. Jianghuai was my exception. But how could I explain this to Shenlong? After all, she was the one who liked Jianghuai first. The Shen family never mistreated me. On the contrary, they treated me just as well as Shenlong, though I was accustomed to refusing and not accepting. Shenlong always took me to places I didn't want to go, but she would hold my hand and introduce me proudly. "This is my sister, Xinyu, remember her, everyone, and don't let her be bullied." It was my own fault for being distant and unable to express my likes and dislikes, always enduring in silence, letting myself sink into a swamp of inferiority and sensitivity. When I joined the Shen family at the age of 5, I already had a clear sense of self in this world. I heard Shen's parents say at the orphanage that they were looking for a playmate for Shenlong and heard them complain that I was too wooden to play with Shenlong. It was Shenlong who took my hand firmly and said, "I want her to be my sister." I was endlessly grateful to Shen's parents, yet I couldn't help feeling distant and restrained, but deep down, I truly wanted a sister like Shenlong. When she was 16, she told me, "I like Jianghuai, and I'm going to pursue him." Her pursuit was vigorous, and at 17, she complained to me, "Why won't Jianghuai agree to be with me?" By her 18th birthday, she had confessed to Jianghuai multiple times. Though I knew that Shenlong had moved on from Jianghuai after going abroad for university, I wasn't sure how she would view my feelings for him. I was too nervous to speak. Shenlong, already holding a pair of chopsticks, teased, "I've been chasing Jianghuai for so long without success. If you two get together so quickly, I'd really lose face." But, Shenlong prodded the rice in her bowl, "Jianghuai liking you doesn't surprise me at all." My chopsticks dropped to the table as I stared at Shenlong in astonishment. "What?" Shenlong raised an eyebrow. "After all, I pursued him for 2 years and observed him for just as long. Every time I invited him out, he showed up only at events you attended. You always sat in the corner, and he always chose a spot where he could see you. Every time I confessed to him and he rejected me, his gaze would wander to you. And remember when you were 7 and I took you to the Lin family's birthday party? He beat up the Lin boy for no apparent reason. Do you know why? Because that Lin boy called you a country bumpkin and said you were ugly, and Jianghuai overheard. That was the first time I met Jianghuai, witnessing him pinning another child to the ground, his youthful fury frightening me, and ever since then, I avoided him. I never knew, hee. After I found out, I went and gave that Lin boy another beating." Seeing my distressed expression, Shenlong stopped laughing and fell silent for a moment. "I never told you these things before because you just didn't get it, and I didn't want these things to disturb your peace of mind. As for my liking Jianghuai," Shenlong shrugged, "the other men around me were all misfits, but he was handsome and had a charm that suited my tastes. It was natural for me to like him. And pursuing him was just a bit of fun. You know how I am, when I like someone, I don't hesitate to put in the effort, but losing interest can happen in a flash. Even though you don't say it, I can tell," Shenlong said to me with a smile, "but I actually still hope that you can talk to me, your sister, if something's on your mind. By the way, did you know that Jianghuai is the Jiang family's illegitimate child? Jianghuai was at the same orphanage as you before being taken back to the Jiang family just a few days earlier than you." In my room, I recalled the last words Shenlong said, and my mind was in chaos. One day at the orphanage when I was 5, a disheveled little boy in tattered clothes suddenly arrived. People said he was a mentally challenged vagrant that other orphanages had refused, so he ended up at ours. The other kids were scared of him, and although the headmaster let him stay, he didn't really look after him. He wore a loose old jacket and always kept his head down, not speaking a word, huddling in a corner. No one called him for meals, and he never joined our dining table. Seeing him curled up and shivering in the corner, I covered him with a quilt. I also secretly brought him meals and candies distributed at the orphanage, But I did all this while he was asleep, thinking he didn't know. Then one day, he was gone. The headmaster said his family had taken him back. A few days later, I was also taken away, and I had forgotten about him. How could I possibly connect the flamboyant and proud Jiang Huai with that little boy? My heart felt sour and swollen, and suddenly I really wanted to see Jiang Huai. I pulled out my phone and sent him a message. Jiang Huai, yes, for some reason, that one word made me want to cry. I thought about my past life. When I was a reporter investigating a news story about a coal mine owner whose exploitation led to the deaths of 10 miners, before I could delve deeper, I was blocked at the foot of the mountain, the cameraman and I ran into the woods, chased by a group of men in black. After we got separated, I ran blindly until someone pulled me into a cave. It's me. Jiang Huai appeared as if from nowhere right in front of me. That was in the remote northern mountains. Not a place like the far northwestern deserts or snow-capped mountains where he could simply say he was touristing. In that moment of life and death, I instantly realized and begged him to hide, but as the footsteps of the pursuers grew closer, he leaned close and whispered in my ear, "I'm here, don't be afraid," and many other things, all the proofs of Jiang Huai's affection for me, all lost in the sands of time, curled up in discomfort. My phone suddenly vibrated. Jiang Huai's voice came through the earpiece, sounding as if from another dimension. "Come down." I ran downstairs like mad, and there Jiang Huai stood in front of the Shen household, hands in his pockets. He always appeared like a miracle. I ran towards him. "What's wrong?" I threw myself into his arms. "Jiang Huai, I'm sorry." 24. I was waiting for Jiang Huai's confession, but everywhere were proofs of his affection for me, yet he never said he liked me again. As the atmosphere of the college entrance exams grew heavier, Jiang Huai and I focused more on our studies, our meetings becoming increasingly rare. Sometimes we hurriedly met in the cafeteria to exchange a few problems before rushing off again. He, exhausted, would pat my head, his eyes filled with bright sparks. We ignored the chatter from others, and in our senior year at 17 or 18, we unwaveringly worked together towards a better future. During the winter break, after the New Year's Eve dinner, we were sitting in the living room, watching the Spring Festival gala and chatting. I felt out of place among Shenlan's parents and herself, so after a few polite exchanges, I thought about stepping out to the front yard for some fresh air. Once outside, I was surprised to see a black motorcycle parked under the tree by the gate, one I hadn't seen before. Jiang Huai, dressed in a black coat, was leaning against the bike, hands in pockets, gazing up at the night sky as if lost in thought. Hearing me approach, he looked down, his gaze snapping back into focus. Surprised, I exclaimed, "Jiang Huai, why didn't you tell me you were here?" Jiang Huai raised his hand to adjust my collar, smiled, and countered, "Want to watch the fireworks?" My eyes lit up, but then dimmed again, thinking about leaving the Shins on New Year's Eve. As I was hesitating, a familiar voice suddenly came from behind. "Go." I didn't realize when Shenlan had come out to the yard. With her arms crossed, she raised her eyebrows at me. "I've handled Mom and Dad, no longer torn," I gratefully said. "Thanks, sis." Jiang Huai put a helmet on me and also smiled, adding, "Thanks, Lan sis." Shenlan rolled her eyes. "Don't push your luck. You're not yet qualified to call me sis. Take good care of my sister, or next time, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth." Jiang Huai's tone was firm. "You won't get the chance." At the scenic lakeside area in the center of Jiang City, fireworks weren't banned during the Spring Festival. On New Year's Eve, there was a grand fireworks and light show, causing the usually quiet streets to be bustling with people waiting for the new year by the lakeside. Jiang Huai parked the bike at a fair distance from the lake. As we got off, he reached out to help me, and I naturally took his hand and never let go. He glanced at me, didn't speak but gripped my hand tighter. As we walked around the perimeter of the crowd, my eyes briefly paused on a whale ornament at one of the stalls, an identical one I had once found on my desk in another life. When we reached a more open area under the streetlight, Jiang Huai suddenly let go of my hand. "Wait here for me." Confused, I complied. From a distance, I saw him run towards the stall and pick up the whale ornament. My eyes moistened. Hard to imagine what Jiang Huai felt buying this ornament alone by the lakeside on New Year's Eve in my past life. I felt fortunate that this time, I was right beside him. I couldn't help but wonder when Jiang Huai would confess his feelings. Watching him approach with the ornament, I impulsively tried a little trick. Seeing him from afar, I stepped forward, pretending to trip and fall, but when I actually fell, I was embarrassingly caught out. Not only because my act was too fake but because I landed on my backside. How could I pretend to have twisted my ankle now? Sitting dazed on the ground, Jiang Huai had already reached me, my face flushed with embarrassment. Just as I was about to dust myself off and stand, Jiang Huai stuffed the whale ornament into my hand and then crouched down, his back facing me. Come on, he paused, then added, I'll carry you. In the past, while watching the movie If Love Had Fate, I always thought the scenes where the male lead intentionally leaves his umbrella behind to share shelter from the rain with the female lead, and she runs through the rain towards him, were the most romantic acts of mutual pursuit in the world. But now, as Jiang Huai carried me on his back, I realized that all other romantic gestures paled in comparison to the way Jiang Huai made my heart flutter. I wrapped my arms around his neck, leaning on his shoulder, holding the whale ornament he gave me. Why did you give me this? I hope, for abundance every year. The wind by the lake was cold, but I only felt Jiang Huai's warmth. Heartwarmingly intense. Across the lake, the tall buildings lit up with countdown lights, and the nearby crowd erupted into noise. Then came the uniform countdown. Jiang Huai carried me on his back, stopping in a deserted area outside the circle, waiting silently together for the New Year's bell to ring. When the countdown reached 1, I shouted, Jiang Huai, me, have you finished your winter vacation homework? Jiang Huai, Happy New Year. Fireworks lit up over the lake, bursting into a spectacle of dazzling colors in the air. Stunningly beautiful. Jiang Huai chuckled softly. Xinyu, is your mind only filled with thoughts of studying? I smiled. No, I'm thinking about our future. Jiang Huai paused, his hand gripping my thigh suddenly tightened. What did you say? Never mind, no more waiting, I said. The second confession should be made by me to Jiang Huai. I moved my lips close to Jiang Huai's ear. Jiang Huai, I like you. The end. Jiang Huai's perspective. 01. I seemed to be a mistake from birth. My foster parents didn't like me. Even though I didn't cry when beaten or complain when hungry, they ultimately kicked me out one winter. I roamed the city, until the police sent me to an orphanage. I stayed at the orphanage for a few days before the director sent me away. They were tired of me, scared of me. Nobody cared what happened to me. I was sent from one city to another, but nowhere did I belong. Until I was 6, I met a girl. She had a ponytail, and her bright, clear, almond-shaped eyes always shone. She always stayed behind the crowd, quiet and gentle, looking at me without avoidance, only with pity. She wasn't afraid of me. She would secretly bring me food and candies, thinking I was asleep. Actually, I was peering through my half-closed eyes, greedily gazing at her face. I dared not look openly, afraid that even this small kindness would be scared away. 02. When my biological father came looking for me, I was holding a candy that the girl had given me. Actually, I didn't care where I went before, but after receiving that candy, I didn't want to follow this man. He threw away my candy, his face cold. A Jiang family child, what a waste you are. The Jiang family, so my surname is Jiang. They said my mother was my father's true love. They brought me back to replace my brother's position, but my brother never even considered me. They wanted me to be strong, not weak, boring. I might as well make a show for them. I became defiant and reckless. I met that girl again. She had forgotten me. She was afraid of me, but I would rather have her fear me than to return to being someone who could only wait for her charity. 03. I watched her follow behind her sister, still hiding in the corners of the crowd. She tried to make herself invisible, but I could always spot her instantly. I realized she was a bit timid, well-behaved, good at studies, excellent at everything. She, like everyone else, feared and disliked me, yet she was unlike anyone else. When I was 7, I beat up a Lin family boy who spoke ill of her. She clearly only saw me hitting him, but when the elders asked, she clearly stated, I don't know what their conflict was about. I only saw part of it, not all. In high school, she saw me surrounded by a group of thugs, thinking I was in danger. She secretly ran to the guard room to call a teacher. She thought I didn't know it was her. For a while, Fang Yi was utterly captivated by romance novels, constantly talking about their plots. I scoffed at this, thinking it unmanly for a guy to indulge in such stories. But there was a phrase he mentioned that I kept in my heart and pondered over for many years. Yes, Xinyu was my redemption. I knew Xinyu wouldn't like someone like me, yet she was so exemplary that I wasn't sure if I could continue to watch her silently after our senior year. I wanted to be the first person to tell her I liked her, even if only as a joke. I lit a cigarette and leaned against the back of the sofa. It was one of the many times I feigned nonchalance and frivolity, and it was my most nervous moment. I hid in the dimmest light and looked at her. Hey, I like you. Story 2. I died in the first year of my marriage to Lin Zisin. During a fire, I texted him, Zisin, the house is on fire. He replied coldly, put out the fire yourself. I'm in a meeting, I grimaced as I looked at a photo a woman had just sent me. Heartbroken, I died in the flames, but fate allowed me to be reborn 10 years earlier. When the new student Lindsayson was assigned to sit next to me, I raised my hand. Teacher, I'd like to sit with another girl. 1. Teacher, I'd like to sit with another girl, I said as the homeroom teacher assigned Lindsason's seat next to mine. My request sparked whispers among the classmates. The homeroom teacher tapped on the desk for silence before asking, why? Because in the first year after marrying me, Lindsayson let me die in a fire for another woman. Yes, I was reborn on the day I met Lindsayson, 10 years ago. When Lindsayson became my deskmate, I was as smitten as any other girl in the class. From then on, I embarked on a long pursuit of him, wishing I could pluck the stars from the sky for him. But it all ended in such a tragic death. In this new life, I'm determined to stay far away from him, because I want to focus on my studies, and he's too handsome, I might get distracted, I stated firmly. The teacher, taken aback by my blunt reasoning, paused for a moment. Eventually, she changed my seat. Good use of reverse psychology, my new deskmate Guchinnan commented as he tossed his bag onto the desk next to mine and raised an eyebrow at me. I tried hard to recall information about him. I vaguely remembered he was an athlete and rarely attended classes. What reverse psychology? Guchinnan sat down next to me, tilting his head towards Lindsayson, who was surrounded by girls. You like that guy? I was stunned, and followed his gaze. Lindsayson sat at his desk, his back in a white shirt ramrod straight, still the way I used to like. I don't like him. I hurriedly averted my gaze and started to organize the books on my desk. Guchinnan suddenly turned his head and leaned in close. He stared at me for a long time, and just as I frowned, he said, You're lying. The eyes of someone in love cannot lie. 2. Guchinnan was right. I still liked Lindsayson. I knew at the moment I saw him standing at the podium, but that was just a decade of lingering affection, a residual impulse. I love myself more. Guchinnan was indeed an athlete, attending only a couple of classes a day, often leaving me alone. This actually helped fulfill what I said on the first day of school, allowing me to seriously focus on my studies and gradually fade my feelings and attention towards Lindsayson. After a semester, my grades climbed to second place, right behind Lindsayson. Suddenly, I became the talk of the class, seen as the one who matched Lindsayson best. What are you afraid of? She doesn't even like Lindsayson. Their classmates say they can't stand each other. I overheard in the restroom during a break. A soft sobbing came from the next stall. The speaker continued, Don't worry, you're so pretty. Lindsayson will like you eventually. Truly gentle and considerate. Besides, I heard that Song Jia likes Guchinnan. The sobbing stopped abruptly, and a soft female voice asked, Really, you wouldn't believe it, right? Even someone like Guchinnan has admirers. I couldn't take it anymore. So I pulled up my pants and stood up. I indeed dislike Lindsayson, I said as I kicked open the door to the next room and announced to the two startled people inside, but I'm not fond of Guchinnan either. They were too frightened by my outburst to speak. I turned to leave, then paused, adding, Also, Guchinnan isn't the person you think he is. He's 10,000 times better than Lindsayson. After saying that, I left the bathroom without looking back. When I returned to the classroom, I saw Guchinnan, who wasn't there earlier, already seated. He twirled his pen and raised an eyebrow at me. Hey, who has upset you? I just shook my head. At least, this version of him wouldn't just stand by and watch me die in a fire. 3. Lindsayson and I, both excelling in academics and blessed with good looks, were chosen as school representatives to participate in a speech competition in the city. Throughout the trip, I avoided being alone with him. It wasn't until backstage at the competition that he approached me from behind and asked in a low voice, I've always wondered, why do you dislike me so much? I didn't expect him to initiate conversation with me. Song Jia. He called my name when I remained silent. This was the first time I had heard him say my name since I was reborn. It sounded really nice. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and then turned to look at him. I dislike people who are both attractive and academically successful. He was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly burst into laughter. That reason doesn't hold up, he said, still smiling. You're just like that yourself, and nobody hates themselves. In my previous life, he had never looked at me and smiled like that, not even at our wedding, and he was wrong. Some people do hate themselves. Next up, we have Song Jia from second middle school for her speech. The announcer called out before I could say anything more. I straightened my back, took the microphone, and walked onto the stage. Luckily, I quite like who I am now. In the past, I always followed Lindsayson and never stood on such a big stage. having lived again, I've realized that besides Lindsison, there are many more things worth pursuing. Isn't this my deskmate? As soon as I exited the venue, I ran into Guchen Nan. He glanced at Lindsison behind me, then gave me a meaningful look. What are you doing here? I hurriedly pulled him away to prevent him from making any inappropriate comments. While I dragged him along, he looked back at Lindsison reaching out to us and teasingly asked, feeling guilty. I rolled my eyes at him. Guilty, my foot. It's good that you're here. I don't want to go back with Lindsison. 4. Guchen Nan is on the swimming team, sitting in the vast stadium. I watched him compete for the first time, dressed in his swimsuit. He stood on the diving platform and looked over at me from afar. I could almost see his mischievous expression. And at the sound of the starter gun, he dived into the water. At that moment, I realized he might even be more handsome than Lindsison. What's more, he had the muscles that Lindsison lacked, only 17, and already so well built. My mind wandered through all sorts of thoughts, and by the time I snapped back to reality, Guchen Nan had already reached the finish line first. He cheekily waved at me. Yep, he's indeed 10,000 times better than Lindsison. After my speech, I hurried off to watch Guchen Nan's match, and the news that I returned to school with him spread quickly. Lindsison's fangirls seemed to be less hostile towards me as time passed, but I forgot, Guchen Nan was no pushover either. Are you Song Jia? I was blocked on my way home from school. The group in front of me was dressed like delinquents. I blatantly lied. I'm not. The leader of the group turned and asked another girl, are we mistaken? While they were still discussing, Lindsison not far away called out to me, Song Jia, he's crazy. He really is crazy. As if it wasn't enough for him to have caused my death in a past life. Now he's here again. The lead girl scoffed, trying to fool me. She took 2 steps towards me. I stepped back. Lindsison then noticed something was wrong and walked over to me. What are you doing? He said in a light rebuke. Great, isn't this just going to provoke them more? The lead girl glanced back at him and raised an eyebrow. Oh. A knight in shining armor. What a joke. A knight in shining armor. Soon, Lindsison and I were cornered against a wall. What do you want? Just when I thought we were about to get beaten up, a rogue voice came from above. I looked up to see Guchen Nan jumping down from the wall. Chen Nan. The lead girl seemed a bit embarrassed. Guchen Nan glanced at her. You know I don't hit girls. That's why many girls at school didn't like Guchen Nan. He was a fighter, a delinquent, in a key high school. That's not exactly something to be proud of. If you treat my classmate like this again. Guchen Nan slung his backpack over his shoulder and walked towards me. I can't guarantee what will happen next time. Upon hearing this, the group didn't dare to say another word and dispersed. Look at that. Now that's what I call a knight in shining armor. 5. After all, I did save you. Aren't you going to thank me? Guchen Nan was casually walking behind me with a bag slung over one shoulder. Sounding a bit displeased, his displeasure wasn't directed at me. I turned around to see him and Lindsison both stop in their tracks. Lindsison's slightly furrowed brow also showed his displeasure. I knew him well. He never liked thugs like Guchen Nan, but that didn't concern me anymore. Guchen Nan, thank you for today. I picked up the conversation directed at Lindsison. I need to get home early, so I'll be going now. Both men turned to look at me when they heard my words. I'll walk you home. They almost said it in unison. Song Jia. This is the certificate from the speech contest. Lindsison slightly frowned as he glanced at Guchen Nan before handing me the certificate. Just in case someone else tries to trouble you, let me escort you home. I took the certificate. And before I could say no need, I heard Guchen Nan scoff. He quickly walked up to my side and slung his arm around my shoulder. Maybe our class president should focus on protecting himself. After saying that, he cheekily winked at me. Come on, let this big guy protect you. His teasing finally made me laugh. I elbowed him in the stomach, broke free, and started walking home, waving at him over my shoulder. No need. I'm not some delicate queen. I've got plenty of tricks and strength. Guchen Nan's laughter boomed behind me. Perhaps influenced by his laughter, I found myself smiling too. The disgust and irritation caused by Lindsison's proximity earlier had evaporated. Maybe being a little thug isn't so bad. I used to be misled by Lindsison. 6. I woke up suddenly to find a huge fire had broken out at home. Panicked, I jumped out of bed to run, but found the front door blocked by flames. In the end, I had to take a wet towel and hide on the balcony, unexpectedly. I had just hung up the phone with emergency services when I received a message. It was a photo of Lindsison with a disheveled woman. Staring at the photo on my phone, my blood seemed to freeze, and a wave of fear washed over me as if doused by a bucket of ice water. Sisson, there's a fire at home. I messaged Lindsison, who wasn't supposed to be at work today. since he didn't like it when I called him at work, I had never phoned him. Even now, I instinctively sent a message. It took a while before I received a reply. You handle the fire. I'm in a meeting. I looked at the photo on my phone and couldn't help but laugh bitterly. The fire seemed to rush towards me, and in the distance, I could faintly hear the sound of fire truck sirens. Suddenly, someone opened the door from outside. A beam of bright light shone in. Songjia, you'll be late if you don't get up now. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw my mom standing by the bed, looking helpless. Still shaken by the emotions from my dream, I sat up and hugged her tightly. Mom, I had a nightmare, a truly terrifying one. My mom gently patted my back. Sleeping in leads to nightmares. Who told you to oversleep? Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. Oh dear, you're not easy to fool anymore. I burst into laughter. Thankfully, that scene was just a dream. With my mom's interruption, I felt much better, obediently got out of bed, washed up, ate breakfast, and left for school. But I didn't expect to see Gu Chinnan right outside the gates of my community. Gu Chinnan casually spit out his bubble gum and waved at me. What a coincidence, you live in this community. I nodded and continued walking. Do you live here too? He shook his head, slowly following behind me. I live ahead, just passing by. Linzason is sick. No joke. Songjia, do you know how to solve this problem? During a break, Linzason suddenly approached my desk. It startled me. The dream from last night was still vivid in my mind, and I didn't want to see him again. My hands continued to work on the problems as I replied indifferently. No, how do you know you don't if you haven't looked? He never used to be like this. I stopped writing, reluctantly glanced at the problem in his hand. Oh, it was the problem I had just solved. No, I said calmly, turning the page of my workbook. After Linzason left, I turned my head to see Gu Chinnan, who was propped up on the desk. Smiling, the sunlight from the window fell on his smiling eyes. He had a completely different personality and charm compared to Linzason. Vibrant. What are you laughing at? I asked him. He blinked. I just think your strategy of playing hard to get is quite clever. It hasn't even been a year, and he's already running back to you. I grabbed my workbook and smacked it on his head. If you dare talk nonsense again, I'll tear your mouth apart, I threatened fiercely, waving my fist at him. But this only elicited unrestrained laughter from him. His laughter was loud enough to draw the attention of the entire class towards us. In a panic, I rushed over to cover his mouth. Only when he stopped laughing did I realize my mistake and quickly let go. But he suddenly leaned in close, staring intently into my eyes. Just as I was about to punch him in the face, he laid back down on the desk, still laughing. Yeah, I wasn't lying this time. It seems that I really don't like him anymore. I haven't liked him for a long time now. The affection I had for 10 years vanished at the moment of my rebirth, leaving behind only a habitual flutter of the heart, and even that insignificant flutter had long since dissipated in recurring nightmares. Now, I just want to keep my distance from him, as far as possible. Ideally, after the college entrance exams, I hope we never meet again. Do you want to go to S City? Gu Chinnan walked beside me, somewhat surprised by my response. Why? Because I like it. In my past life, to follow Linzason to B City, I didn't even consider applying to any university in S City, because I like it, I said, looking at our shadows under the streetlight. I heard it's a place of freedom. Gu Chinnan is tall, but the streetlight somehow shrank his shadow into a small blob. It was kind of funny. Yeah, S City is nice. He kicked a pebble by his foot. His voice seemed to carry a happiness I couldn't quite place. When we reached the entrance of my neighborhood, I said goodbye to him and then asked, do you really live up ahead? He was momentarily taken aback, then nonchalantly replied, yeah. Do you want to come over and hang out? No, I said, quickly walking away while clutching my backpack. Later, I thought about it carefully. The reason I never ran into him on the street in my past life was probably that I was too busy following Linzason around, not paying attention to anyone else. Not to mention Gu Chinnan, whom Linzason least favored. It wasn't long after I started going to and from school with Gu Chinnan that the term ended. In the new term of senior year 3, it was time to change seats again. Linzason and Gu Chinnan switched places. The teacher said casually from the podium. I was startled from my exercises. Gu Chinnan immediately raised his hand. I don't want to switch. He was used to being carefree and often skipped class, so the teachers didn't really favor him. The teacher frowned and asked displeased, why not? I like the sunshine, Gu Chinnan said as he opened the window. The sunlight outside was just right, falling on him, making him look particularly striking. Linzason, sitting on the other side, also looked over at me from afar. As if he was determined to get Gu Qinnan's spot, I raised my hand and said, "Teacher, the class president has good grades and many students ask him questions during breaks. I'm worried it might affect other students as well as both our studies." The implication was that Lin Zixin being seated alone was the best option for him to shine on his own. The teacher thought about it and agreed that I had a point. However, in the end, she decided to swap the seats of Gu Qinnan and the girl sitting behind him. Gu Qinnan was pleased with the outcome and squinted at me playfully after adjusting his desk. "As long as you're not sitting with Lin Zixin, it doesn't matter who you sit with." 9. The studies in senior year were intense. Even though it was my second time experiencing this, I occasionally felt overwhelmed. Gu Qinnan's training sessions were becoming more frequent, reducing his time in the classroom, yet discussions about him only increased. Girls who initially didn't think much of Gu Qinnan started changing their opinions as he continued to win competitions one after another. Other than not being great at studies or having a good temperament, he hardly has any flaws, my new deskmate Baikor remarked during a gossip session about him. I continued working on my problems but added, "His temperament is quite good, actually." Baikor didn't expect me to engage in the gossip and leaned in closer, surprised. "I also heard that you like him. Is that true?" That rumor was so old. I stopped writing, looked at her somewhat helplessly, and said, "That's not true. How could I possibly like him? Don't listen to their nonsense." As soon as I finished speaking, a bottle of water was placed at the corner of my desk. I turned around to see Gu Qinnan, his forehead slightly sweaty. It was a bit awkward. After a few seconds of eye contact, I looked down at the water at the corner of the desk. "How much for the water?" "I'll pay you." Gu Qinnan seemed upset. He didn't take the money for the water and stopped talking to me. After he slept on the desk for a class period, Lin Zixin came over. Lin Zixin placed a form on my desk and softly said, "The teacher wants you to participate in this competition to secure a nomination for direct admission." It was hard not to be excited by the word nomination. I took the form without asking any questions, only to realize that I would be participating in the competition with Lin Zixin. "Would you not participate just because I'm also involved?" he asked me during the prep class, sitting next to me. I glanced at him. By now, I could look at him calmly. Why would I not? I politely shifted away. "The nomination is very important, more important than you are." I'm not sure if my movement was too obvious or my words too cold. But Lin Zixin's smile stiffened for a moment. I ignored him and started preparing for the class. When I looked up after finishing my work at the end of the class, I saw Gu Qinnan standing outside the classroom. He had changed a lot, and many girls were approaching him to chat. "Do you like someone like that?" Seeing me looking at Gu Qinnan outside, Lin Zixin, sitting next to me, also looked over. His voice was indifferent. I turned back to him and firmly replied, "I just don't like someone like you." 10. Why are you here? I asked Gu Qinnan, walking beside me. "Surely you're not just passing by again." He patted my head and said, "Next to us is the gym, didn't you know?" I instinctively looked back, and indeed it was a gym. "Do you train at this time every day?" I asked, as I had come to the training class after school and it was already late. "What, you think championships are easy to win?" His casual tone made it seem like winning was effortless for him. I nodded with a smile. All right. Do I have the honor of treating the champion to some dumplings as a way to atone for my sins during the day?" "Dumplings." I nodded towards a small stall by the roadside. Gu Qinnan glanced over at the wonton stand, his eyes and brows curving slightly. "Then I'll give you this chance to be the champion." But before the wontons were served, a woman arrived. She wore delicate makeup, a long red dress, and high heels as she stood across from Gu Qinnan. Her voice was soft and gentle. Gu Qinnan looked up at her, and the smile on his lips disappeared instantly. The woman looked vaguely familiar, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't recall who she was. I looked at the bowl of wontons that was meant for Gu Qinnan in front of me and sighed. It seems my sins are too deep. I can't even offer a bowl of wontons. Since that night Gu Qinnan left with that woman, I hadn't seen him for several days. The next time I saw him was at the entrance to my apartment complex. He stood there alone, a stark contrast to his usual vibrant self. "Gu Qinnan," I called out to him. He looked up at me, a spark finally lighting up his indifferent eyes. "I thought you had been kidnapped or something. Not seeing you for so long." I tried to lighten the mood with a joke, which seemed to work. He slightly curved his lips and playfully smacked my head. "Can't you think better of me?" 11. Gu Qinnan was injured. I pointed at a small piece of gauze showing on his leg. "What happened here?" He looked down at his leg and tugged at his pant leg. It might have touched the wound because he inhaled sharply through his teeth, but still stubbornly said, "It's nothing." How did you end up like this after just a few days? I lifted his pant leg, frowning at the bandaged wound. He caught my hand and chuckled softly. I looked up at him, puzzled, but he leaned down. His face was very close to mine, so close that his breath made my entire face heat up. You care about me this much, he teased, his brows arching playfully as his lips curved into a cocky smile. You haven't fallen for me, have you? I was startled. Well, what? I pulled away from his grasp and quickly stood up from the chair. What are you talking about, Songjia? He looked up at me. His eyes not like those of the man who had been waiting at the apartment entrance but rather as if they contained all the stars in the sky, twinkling brightly. I've told you, the eyes don't lie. Overwhelmed, I turned away instinctively. Gu Chainan, if you dare spout nonsense, I'll tear your mouth apart, I threatened fiercely without turning back and ran home. Gu Chainan never held back, always speaking recklessly. I should have been used to it by now, not reacting so strongly like today. With that thought, I turned over in bed, deciding not to dwell on it anymore. Yes, I couldn't sleep, all because of that jerk Gu Chainan, always spouting nonsense. With dark circles under my eyes, I watched Gu Chainan waiting at the apartment entrance. He seemed in a particularly good mood, waving at me. Good morning, what a joke. I ignored him and continued walking. Since his leg was injured, he couldn't go to training and had to stay in the classroom for the time being. Now, the girls in the class were divided into two groups. One group gathered around Linzison, and the other around Gu Chainan. I was just about to massage my temples when I heard Gu Chainan's impatient voice. I want to sleep, so keep it down. At least he handled it better than Linzison. I pursed my lips, feeling somewhat pleased. 12. The competition results came out quickly. Linzison continued his streak as the top scorer, with me right behind him. Our teacher was very pleased and wanted to treat the two of us to a meal. Initially, I thought of declining, but clutching the trophy in my hand, I ended up agreeing. Songjia. As soon as I entered the restaurant, Linzison waved at me. I sighed and walked in slowly. Has the teacher not arrived yet? I sat down across from Linzison. He thoughtfully poured me a glass of water. Something might have held him up. I nodded. Then I leisurely poured the water he gave me from my glass into a bowl. Rinsed the bowl, and then the chopsticks. Could you dispose of this for me? Thank you. I politely stopped a waiter and handed over the bowl of water. The water Linzison poured for me. I feared it would bring bad luck. Seeing my actions, he didn't get upset and casually rinsed his own bowl and chopsticks too. True to his rank as number one, he never lets himself get embarrassed. Now that the direct admission is successful, we can continue to be at the same school. Linzison said while rinsing his bowl. I was stunned. In my past life, I would have been overjoyed to the point of waking up laughing from dreams. Unfortunately, I only managed to get into a school not too far from him. Can we only get direct admission to one college? I asked with a smile. Then I might try taking the entrance exams. The impact of my words seemed to stiffen his expression, pretending not to notice his discomfort. I glanced down at my watch. It's been a while. If the teacher doesn't show up, I might leave first. After saying this, I picked up my backpack and left. Just a few steps out of the restaurant, Linzison caught up to me. I don't understand. He sounded frustrated. What exactly do you dislike about me? I turned to look at him. Under the streetlight, he didn't seem so superior anymore. His gesture of holding me felt just like the countless times I had reached out to him. Linzison, I pulled away from his grasp, asking him. You don't have feelings for me, do you? 13. I always said Linzison was problematic. In my past life, I was always trailing behind him, willing to pluck stars from the sky for him, yet he wouldn't spare me a second glance. Now that I can barely stand to look at him, he seems to have developed feelings for me. He really is sick. During PE, sitting beside me was Gu Chainan, also sidelined due to an injury. I turned to look at him, and he pointed at Linzison running on the track. Look at him. Running so listlessly, he must be weak. I spat out the water I was drinking. Why do you hate him so much? I screwed the cap back on the bottle and asked Gu Chainan. It seemed like from the beginning, his hostility towards Linzison was quite significant. I remember in my past life they barely interacted at all. Gu Chainan glanced at me, stood up from the steps, and walked in the opposite direction while dusting off his hands. Because he deserves to be disliked. His reply was as good as saying nothing. PE wasn't over yet when Bakir came and sat next to me. Did you hear? Something big happened. She sat down and immediately started gossiping. Ever since she started sitting beside me, I became well versed in the class gossip. What happened? Chu Tianhuai's mother went to the principal's office. I frowned. Chu Tianhui, who's that? It sounded familiar. Don't you remember? He's the senior 2 grades above us, very rich. Gets picked up by luxury cars every day. I had a vague recollection. There seemed to be such a person in my high school memories. I had only glimpsed him from afar back in my first year of high school. Why is his mom at the school after over a year since we graduated? Bakur glanced around, then leaned in and whispered. I just passed by the principal's office and overheard them saying that Gu Chennan is Chu Tianhui's father's illegitimate son. Chu Tianhui's mother is causing a scene with the principal, demanding that Gu Chennan be expelled. How could this be? I widened my eyes and looked at Bakur. Are you sure you heard right? Absolutely certain. Suddenly, I recalled the enchanting woman who was with Gu Chennan that day. Then it struck me. Despite Gu Chennan's remarkable swimming talent, no one seemed to mention any awards he might have won in competitions. What exactly happened to Gu Chennan in the past? 14. The news that Gu Chennan was an illegitimate child spread rapidly. When I heard our classmates discussing it, I immediately looked at Bakur. She shook her head. I only told you. I looked worriedly towards Gu Chennan's usual spot. It was empty. He must have heard the disgraceful rumors too. Song Jia, could you grab something for me? Just as I was about to look for Gu Chennan, the chemistry teacher at the door called out to me. The chemistry lab was in another building, and as I entered, the bell for the start of class rang. I thought I'd have to wait until after class to look for Gu Chennan while I searched for the teaching materials the chemistry teacher needed. Suddenly, there was a snap behind me. When I turned around, I saw a small flame had ignited nearby. Ever since that big fire, I'd been unable to face flames. I even keep my distance from the gas stove at home. Now, seeing the flame growing stronger, my legs gave way, and I collapsed on the floor. People, help. Save me. I trembled all over, crying and calling for help, as the fire grew larger. Just when I thought I might unluckily die in a fire again, someone suddenly rushed in. Song Jia, it was Gu Chennan. Save me. I sobbed breathlessly. Gu Chennan ran to my side, draping his soaked jacket over me and firmly covering my eyes with his hand. The overwhelming fire was instantly replaced by endless darkness. It's okay. It's okay. Gu Chennan's voice was low and hoarse, as if he was very scared. I'm here, with you. I'll get you out. It felt like grabbing a lifeline in the darkness. I clung tightly to him. It seemed like many people arrived, and the noise around us grew. Gu Chennan held me as we walked out, and it felt like a long time before I heard Linzison, panting, ask, Song Jia, how are you? Hearing his voice, I felt as if I was still in that sea of fire. A wave of dizziness hit me. Before I fainted, I heard Gu Chennan's cold voice, stay away from her. 15. They say being burned alive is the most painful death. I crouched in a corner of the balcony, watching the flames rushing towards me, filled with endless fear. Save me, save me. After I don't know how many cries for help, suddenly someone rushed through the flames. It was 17-year-old Gu Chennan. He wrapped me tightly with his soaked jacket. Don't be afraid, Song Jia. He held me, soothing me gently. I'm here now, with you. The raging fire seemed to slowly recede. The jacket made me shiver from the cold. Dr. Yi, is she alright? In a daze, I heard Gu Chennan's voice. She's just shocked. She'll be fine once she wakes up. The doctor's voice sounded distant. You should worry about yourself for now. The principal is under a lot of pressure. After the doctor left, I finally opened my eyes. Gu Chennan was standing by my bed. His clothes marked by burns, his face was unevenly marked with patches of white and black. Are you awake? His furrowed brows relaxed as he saw me opening my eyes. I nodded and glanced towards the door, asking him, is the principal going to expel you? He paused for a moment, his eyes dropping slightly. You heard about it too. He forced a wry smile, his tone tinged with self-mockery. Was that woman your mother that day? Yes, just as I had guessed, but that woman seemed vaguely familiar, as if I had seen her somewhere before. Song Jia, he suddenly looked up at me. I'm an illegitimate child. I was taken aback by his bluntness. So what? I looked back at him. It's not your fault, whether it's your mom's or your dad's mistake. None of it is your fault. Let the adults handle their issues. You just focus on growing up and strive to become an adult who doesn't make mistakes. I wasn't sure if it was the brightness of the infirmary's lights, but Gu Chennan's eyes seemed particularly luminous. He reached out and ruffled my hair. Okay, the major fire in the laboratory, along with Gu Chennan's background, had become a hot topic at school. What escalated this buzz was the appearance of Gu Chennan's strikingly beautiful mother at the school. I'm not sure what she said to the principal, but he looked strained as he led her into his office. Yet he was all smiles when he escorted her out. After leaving the principal's office, she didn't leave the school but stood outside our classroom for a long time. I sighed as I looked at the empty space where Gu Chennan usually sat. she probably wouldn't see him today. Unexpectedly, she stopped me on the way home from school. Songjia. She waved at me with a smile. I hesitated for a moment but walked towards her. Auntie, she gave me a smile that curved her eyes. In this, Gu Chennan did resemble her. You've grown so much. I hadn't expected such a start. You were only this tall back then, she gestured in the air. You were about 6 years old, and now you've grown into a young lady. She went on talking by herself. Based on her words, I tried hard to recall my 6-year-old self. It seemed like a distant memory, but I managed to catch a glimpse of a clue. Auntie Gu, I tentatively called out. She smiled and patted my head, confirming it. The year I was 6. A mother and son moved next door, but they stayed for less than half a year. I had long forgotten them in the river of memories. Turns out, that mother and son were Gu Chennan and his mother. Tell Chennan not to worry about the school matter. I've already taken care of it. Perhaps this was her real reason for approaching me. I nodded. Why don't you tell him yourself? She paused. Hasn't Chennan told you? She touched her belly. I'm married now, and Chennan hasn't wanted to have anything to do with me for years. The identity of an illegitimate child. A mother remarried and pregnant. How could Gu Chennan still manage to appear so vibrant, seemingly thriving on the surface? Gu Chennan. I found him in a park not far from my home, where I hadn't seen him for days. He was squatting under a bridge, a partly smoked cigarette still between his fingers. The dim streetlight cast a sorrowful shadow over him, making him look incredibly pitiable. Perhaps this was his true self. He looked up at me and instinctively threw the cigarette aside. I looked at the cigarette that took a moment to go out on the ground, walked over, and slapped him on the head. You started smoking. He shook his head, then he spat out the bubble gum he was chewing and showed it to me. What are you doing here? He shifted to the side, making room for me. I crouched down next to him. Is this place only for you to come? He started to laugh. His laughter was truly beautiful, like a meteor streaking across the night sky. Gu Chennan, why don't you come to school? He casually picked up a stone and threw it into the river. Anyway, there aren't many days left to attend. Your mom came to school today. His stone-throwing hand paused mid-air. She spoke with the principal. You won't be expelled. This time, the stone he threw into the river caused a big splash. Gu Chennan stood up from the ground. I don't need her feigned concern. She got married and has other children. He looked down at me, his eyes dull. She has shed that shameful status. And that child will be born legitimate, receiving everyone's love and blessings. What about me then? His voice was low and hoarse, like a needle piercing my heart. I stood up, meeting his gaze. You have me. With me, you are also legitimate, and also deserve everyone's love and blessings. Gu Chennan, come back to school, with me. In a previous life, it was around this time that Gu Chennan left school, and then there was no news from him. But this time, Gu Chennan came back. No one in the school gossiped about Gu Chennan's background anymore, as everyone had entered a tense study period. Months passed in the blink of an eye. On the day the college entrance examination ended, the students, who had been tense as a tightly drawn string, celebrated wildly like untamed horses within the school. I stood quietly in the corridor, experiencing an unprecedented sense of relaxation. At that moment, Linzason approached me. He was already guaranteed a university spot but had still participated in the exams. Songjia. He joined me in watching the clouds overhead. Where do you want to go to university? This was a question I had once asked him. I glanced at him sideways. Since I stopped liking him, I realized he was just ordinary. Love really is a bizarre filter. I'll go to a university in a city I like, I answered with a smile. But definitely not in City B. He was taken aback. Songjia. He looked down at me. I gave up my guaranteed spot. That truly surprised me. This lifetime, he seemed like a completely different person. If you want to go to City S, I'm willing to follow you there, he said earnestly. I like you. Be my girlfriend. I frowned, feeling slightly nauseous. The tables had turned, but now it was his turn. Yet, I wasn't too happy. Just then, Gu Chennan waved at me from downstairs. My frown turned into a smile, and I waved back at him, as I was about to turn and go downstairs. I said to Linzason, with your grades, you can still go to City B even without the guarantee. Linzason, I don't like you, I said earnestly, word by word. I didn't like you before, I don't like you now, and I won't like you in the future. I will never like you. Nor do I like the self that would sacrifice its identity for you. What's so good about Gu Chennan? He persisted, following closely behind me. He smokes, drinks, fights, and his grades are a mess, and he's an illegitimate child that nobody wants to see. As he finished speaking, I turned around and slapped him. I initially thought that his infidelity was a mistake he made 10 years later, and I shouldn't blame his present self for it. so all I thought about was keeping my distance from him. To my surprise, he turned out to be such a person. Maybe I never really knew him. He's better than you in every way, I said, laughing sarcastically. Lindsayson, what do you even like about me? If I remember correctly, ever since you transferred to our school, I never bothered you. Look behind you. My gaze shifted to a group of girls behind him. So many girls are around you, and you don't fall for them but choose to like me instead. Are you just being masochistic, or perhaps you're so used to being on a pedestal that you enjoy conquering a woman like me who isn't swayed by you? I looked at him coldly. If I were like those girls behind you, would you still like me? No, he probably never expected a girl to say such things to him. Frozen in place, he didn't move. At that moment, a girl from behind him couldn't stand it anymore and stepped forward, but before she could say anything, Gu Nan grabbed my hand from behind and ran downstairs. That day, Gu Nan and I ran for a long time. The wind blew past us, lifting my hair. Gu Nan smiled. Look, even the wind says you're free. I was free. At the graduation party, Lindsayson didn't show up. The girls who liked Lindsayson looked at me as if they wanted to devour me, but with Gu Nan sitting next to me, none dared to approach. I ate the fruit platter in the KTV, smiling at Gu Nan. You're like my bodyguard now. I'm happy to be, he said, raising an eyebrow with a mischievous smile. That day, everyone drank. Many classmates were drinking for the first time, getting completely drunk. After sending the last girl, who was cursing at me, home, I turned to look at Gu Nan behind me. His ears were tinged with pink. He had drunk quite a bit. We walked back shoulder to shoulder, the streetlights stretching our shadows long, though we were still a fist's distance apart. Our shadows seemed to be holding hands. Song Jia. Gu Nan suddenly stopped. I looked at our shadows and stopped too. I like you. He turned to face me. His eyes were always so bright, as if trying to draw people in. I slightly lowered my head, tucking my hair behind my ear. I know, I had known for a long time, when he pulled me to watch his competitions one after another, when he jumped off the wall to stop those thugs. My background is not glamorous, I'm not good at studying, and I fight. He repeated the words Lindsayson had said that day, but I don't smoke. I raised my hand to cover his mouth. His lips were cold, and they moved slightly in the palm of my hand. Ticklish, palm ticklish, heart ticklish. Your background is not your fault, I patiently responded. Not everyone needs to be a good student. You excel in swimming and always come first. You fight but never unjustly, and you can protect me. You are so good. I blinked, tilting my head to look at him. I like you too. He was stunned. His eyes brightened again, as if scattering all the stars in the sky into them. Really, really. After that, we stopped talking. I walked back to the entrance of the apartment complex with my face burning red. At the entrance, as I was about to say goodbye, Gu Nan suddenly asked, "Do you want to try some bubble gum?" I was taken aback for a moment. "It's very sweet," he assured me confidently. I nodded blankly and reached out my hand. Instead, he popped a piece of bubble gum into his mouth and blew a bubble. Just as I was wondering what he was up to, he bent down slightly and touched the bubble to my lips. My mind went blank, and my tongue instinctively licked my lips. With a pop, the bubble burst, and I came back to my senses. "Is it sweet?" Gu Nan asked with a smile. In that instant, my face flushed with heat as blood rushed to my head. I stomped my foot and turned to run away. "Not sweet at all," I lied. Both Gu Nan and I went to S City. He was exceptionally admitted to our school because of his outstanding swimming achievements. In S City, all those rumors and gossip were gone. As soon as Gu Nan started school, he was featured on the confession wall. Hey, isn't that Gu, the campus heartthrob? I sat in the cafe, looking at the person who had just finished training and came to meet me, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Gu Nan sat down next to me with a cheery smile. "Campus heartthrob, here, I'm only the boyfriend of Song, the campus beauty." I laughed and playfully punched his chest, taking the opportunity to feel his increasingly firm muscles. Every time this happened, it felt like a dream. This was technically my second time in college, but it felt like this was how college was supposed to be. Endless competitions, countless awards, and a boyfriend who treated me well, not just waiting every day outside the boys' dormitory. Time passed beautifully and warmly. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. It was September 8th again, the day I turned 27. I stared at the calendar on the wall, lost in thought. "It's been 10 years, Gu Nan hugged me from behind, also looking at the calendar. "Yeah, 10 years ago today, I became your desk mate." "Yes," I smiled and turned around to hug him. "Hurry up and get ready, or we'll be late." Today was his last race before retirement. It was important. Originally, He didn't want to participate and wanted to stay home with me. I insisted that he participate, not wanting him to have any regrets about this. After seeing him off, I curled up on the sofa again. After a while, the high school group chat suddenly started talking, saying that Lindsayson was getting married. Then someone posted a photo. It was a photo of Lindsayson and a woman. Unlike the photo I received 10 years ago, this woman was dressed properly, and her eyes bore a slight resemblance to mine. Bakur messaged me privately. Lindsayson really has deep feelings for you. Don't, I can't bear that, I replied with a laugh. The high school group chat continued lively, while I stared at the photo of Lindsayson and that woman on my screen. Everything was different, yet it seemed to be slowly overlapping. I drifted off to sleep again amid the blur. The nightmare that I hadn't had in a long time came back. I was still helplessly crouched on the balcony, but this time I opened Guchinan's chat, just as I was about to type. I suddenly stopped. I exited the chat interface and dialed Guchinan's number. Guchinan, who was participating in the competition, answered the phone, his voice anxious yet tender. Don't be afraid, I'm here for you. All my fears instantly vanished. I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. Subsequently, I heard Guchinan's voice. Whatever, I'm retiring anyway, just say I lack sportsmanship. I struggled to wake up, and as I opened my eyes, I saw Guchinan standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. An unprecedented sense of security overwhelmed me, my nose tingled, and tears began to fall. Why did you come back? I asked him hoarsely. He ended his phone call and turned to look at me, his expression obscured by the backlight. All I knew was that he was as warm as the sunshine. He smiled and asked me, there's still soup simmering in the pot, and you fell asleep, what would you do without me? End of the main text. Guchinan's side story. When I saw the news about the big fire, I had just finished a meeting. Mr. Gu, you have another meeting this afternoon. I loosened my tie and ran outside, my assistant trailing behind me. Cancel them, cancel everything. I drove, running through countless red lights until I reached the destination. The building was surrounded by people. But Lindsayson was nowhere to be seen. His house was on fire, yet he hadn't returned. Over there, someone pointed to a balcony on a high floor. That's the lady of the house, Song Jia. Ignoring the police's attempts to stop me, I rushed in. The elevators were out of service due to the fire. I climbed the stairs floor by floor, my heart growing colder with each step. The fire was really big. In the end, I collapsed outside the door. If I had another chance, I would never hesitate or let her be with someone else. Perhaps even the heavens took pity on me. When I woke up, I found myself back 10 years ago. Guchinan, switch places, and sit next to Song Jia, the teacher said, and I couldn't have been happier. I began to deliberately get close to Song Jia. The rumors that she liked me were spread by me, even if at first she wanted to use me to play hard to get with Lindsayson. It didn't matter, as long as she stayed by my side. And I could protect her at all times. I no longer quietly followed her. Every morning, I woke up very early, took a long detour to her neighborhood to wait for her, and then we went to school and came home together. Whenever Lindsayson tried to approach her, I would appear right on time. I made sure to coincidentally pass by any place she appeared. Even if she said she didn't like me, what did it matter? She would eventually like me. Everything was moving in a positive direction, until that day. When my mother, whom I hadn't seen in many years, appeared. Suddenly, I remembered that unbearable past. Suddenly, I realized the identity I couldn't share with others. No matter how much I changed, what was meant to come would still come. Chu Tianhui, the man who found me, brought thugs that I couldn't handle. You're just a bastard. He looked down at me from his high ground. Tell your mother to stay away from my family. You'll never be part of the Chu family. I couldn't refute a single word he said. This identity was suffocating me, and Song Jia was even more dazzling than in my past life, so dazzling that I often asked myself if I was worthy of her. Do you think you're worthy of her? After the college entrance examination, Lindsayson confronted me with the same words he had once said. He knew I liked Song Jia. He had known for a long time. This time, I countered. Do you think you are worthy of the fiery love Song Jia had in her previous life? As I was leaving, I turned back to see him, his hand gripping the coffee cup tightly. You had a chance to have her, I said softly, but you didn't cherish it. If you don't cherish her, don't blame me for stepping in. Because of Song Jia, in this life, I chose a different path. I didn't end up at the Chu family's doorstep out of desperation. Instead, I climbed my way up into the national team step by step. Soon, the day of my retirement arrived. The entertainment industry had already extended an olive branch to me, waiting to sign me as soon as I retired. As long as it provided a good life for Song Jia, I was willing to do anything. but she insisted that I participate in a competition on September 8th. I love watching you compete, she said. I could never refuse her requests. Then come watch me compete. Stop kidding, I've got work to handle. I felt uneasy with her staying at home alone, before the competition. I called her twice with no answer. A wave of fear overwhelmed me, and ignoring all obstacles, I changed clothes and rushed home. When I opened the door, I saw her curled up on the sofa, sleeping peacefully, with my favorite soup still simmering in the kitchen. The bubbling sound filled the room. I walked into the kitchen and turned off the stove. As the bubbling ceased, my heart calmed down as well. I squatted beside the sofa, gazing at Songjia's serene face, feeling more grateful than ever at that moment. But then a phone call woke her up. The phone should have been on silent. It's okay, a little controversy is good for publicity, especially since I haven't even entered the entertainment industry yet, I said with a laugh as I pulled her tightly into my arms and kissed her furrowed brow. I rushed back just to enjoy the soup you made, didn't I? She was easy to appease. It wasn't long before she was okay again. The high school group chat was still lively. Suddenly, someone posted a blurry photo. Songjia enlarged the photo again and again, pointing at the person behind her in the photo and asking me, "Hey, is this you?" It seemed to be from an event in our first year of high school. Yes, I held her close. I was always behind you, but you never looked back, so I had to run up beside you. She looked puzzled.